Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if reading Naruto Highschool DxD Sage 6 Paths. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Dylan Millwood and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Naruto looked at his friends, who couldn't believe what they were hearing. Let him deal with Sasuke alone. Was he insane? Sasuke was an international criminal. He didn't deserve mercy or redemption. Naruto walked away, his hands folded behind his head. I'm going to Ichiraku's, he said dismissively, but they could tell he was just trying to avoid the discussion any further. A strange rip appeared in the skies above the village, causing everyone to look up in shock before an object shot out of it like a comet and embedded itself in the ground in the middle of all of the 11 rookies. It was bright red and at least 36 inches in diameter. Suddenly the object pulsed and started glowing before it released a wave of energy that swallowed up the group of young shinobi. The next thing everyone knew, they woke up groaning, all laying on their backs and groaning. The Konoha 11 all looked around. They didn't recognize this place. Thick, red clouds obscured the sky. Along with that, the area they were in had a vast environment, complete with oceans, mountains, forests, and various animal species. Along with that, several villages were built across the landscape, whole mountain towns with blockhouses. The village was abandoned, but it looked like it survived through war. Not to mention, most absurdly of all, a type of feudal castle inside of an artificial sun. They could figure that because the main content was a sun-like or eye-like structure with double-layered yellow hexagon-shaped pupil, one fixed and one another rotated counterclockwise, surrounded by an orange-yellow flower-like iris, which currently stored inside the core of the artificial sun and protected with some huge pieces of metal bars, along with floating islands that had temples. The islands and castle all orbited the sun's core, which was a floating cavern in the shape of an 8-pointed sun ray symbol, along with a crescent moon and a sun. The artificial sun consisted of two separated parts, its case and the main content. The case is spherical-shaped structure made from gold with an 8-pointed star-like symbol carved, which was currently placed and mounted in a wheeled tower structure, with an emblem carved in the front of the tower. Naruto frowned and sat down lotus position and gathered natural energy into his body, his eyes turning yellow with toad-like horizontal bars for eyes with orange pigmentation around his eyes. He bolted to his feet a moment later. "Guys, we've got company," he said, then bolted off in the direction he felt the energy signatures he'd felt. His friends followed him and they saw an odd assortment of people. Most wore what they guessed was some kind of uniform. The assorted group awoke in much the same way the shinobi had. Naruto and the others helped them up. "Who are you all?" Naruto asked once the two groups were facing one another. "Office. What are you doing here?" Everyone that wasn't from Konoha demanded. The girl looked at everyone blankly. "If I knew that, I wouldn't be here. I was placed here same as you, and I can't leave. Something's blocking me from doing so." "What are you guys?" Naruto demanded, drawing everyone's attention to him. "Your energy didn't feel human when I sensed it earlier." The red-haired man sighed. "I'll explain," he said before telling the ninjas about devils, angels, and fallen angels, fallen for short. How God existed and how the devils had 4 great satans instead of just the one in religion. Then they went on to explain items known as sacred gears, and to ensure there wasn't any disbelief, the non-humans even exposed their wings, nearly giving the ninjas corneas, but Naruto just shrugged. What could he say? He wasn't religious, but he had a demon sealed in his guts. So why would the existence of dragons, devils, angels, and fallen angels surprise or bother him? As soon as the introductions were finished, there was a flash of light and a boom like thunder, and a book appeared between them all. "Where did that come from?" Asia asked. "Hold on, there's a note," Neji said, picking it up and read aloud. "Here assorted humans, devils, dragons, and angels, both fallen and non-fallen. I'm sure you're all wondering why you were brought to where you are. As to your location, it is the lunar village of Utsutsuki clan. As to why you're all here, I used my power to bring you here. There are few things to occupy me, so I want to see how you all do, hearing of a mixing of your worlds. As it if this the future or is merely an alternate universe, I'll allow you all to decide that. Also, the seal I created that keeps you all here was set to make it so you can't leave if you harm or kill one another. As for how you can actually manage to leave, I made the tail the key to the seal. You want out, you have to read the book. Enjoy the story." "You gotta be kidding me. We're stuck here," Kiba Inuzuka demanded. "Seems that is the case, and going along with this is our only way out. Like it or not, we've gotta do this," Yudo Kiba said. "Ugh, can I just point this out, but since you're both named Kiba, I have a feeling it'd be easier if we all addressed you by your last names," Shikamaru said. The two glared at him for a moment, eyed one another before the swordsman sighed. "Fine," he said. "I'll read first." the crimson-haired Satan said, taking the book and drawing everyone's attention to himself. Can we start? I'd rather not be stuck here forever because of procrastination. Kuroka said. Surzuch nodded. Chapter 1. Fantasy and Reality. A soft sigh was heard within a building separate from a larger one that was surrounded by young men and women in uniforms. The one who sighed was seated behind a desk, their head in their hands in a manner of despair. The hands slid down, slightly dragging the skin of their face before the identity was revealed. Blue-green eyes looked around the room before a stray lock of stunning crimson hair fell in front of them. Rias and the others stared, why was it following her? Frowning, the young woman blew upward and sent the lock away from her view before she stood up from her desk. She moved away from the main room and went down the hall, stopping at the second door on the right and pulling out a simple gray key. Unlocking the door, she opened it and stepped inside of a room that gave her a simultaneous feeling of pride and embarrassment. Why? What's in there that's so bad? Ino asked. Rias blushed and refused to answer. Oh, just great, that room. She was in no mood for this. Last thing she wanted was to get teased. Shelves filled every wall, and the shelves themselves were filled with various Japanese manga and anime series. Not one of them incomplete or not up to date. And Yuzuka laughed, so you're a geek, then? He asked, then stopped seeing the red-haired man and the rest of the group that were with Rias and her age glare at him with such anger that it was clear that the fact that they were forbidden to do anything to him, along the lines of harming or killing, that he was still breathing. Akamaru barked at his partner, which the dog boy knew was telling him to shut up. It was in this room that Rias Gremory, the devil heiress of the Gremory household, escaped from the reality that held all her problems. Here, she escaped into the fantasy that were her collections. Well, reality can suck pretty bad sometimes, that's why fantasy was invented. Make it more bearable. Naruto said with a shrug as he put his hands behind his head, making Rias give him a small smile and mouthed a quick thanks to him for the support. She made her way to the shelf that held the H section and pulled out a book near the end. Inspecting the cover, she smiled at the sight of the main protagonist and the title behind them. The Hurricane Chronicles. The protagonist was in a destroyed orange and black jumpsuit, his face set in fierce determination that burned in those beautiful blue eyes that she could get lost in. His hair was like a sun, bright gold with spikes that shot in every direction like the solar rays. At that, everyone stopped before they looked up and grinned at Naruto and Rias. He looked confused, while Rias blushed. Hinata, however, glared at the red-haired devil girl. How dare this hellspawn act like that toward Naruto? Issei glared likewise towards Naruto. Who did this guy think he was to make Rias so doe-eyed for him? Behind him were the images of a ravenet man with strange eyes. Sasuke the Konoha group thought grimly. The pink-haired woman with a purple diamond mark on her forehead. That's me and I'm actually using Lady Tsunade's strength of 100 seal, Sakura thought, horrified. If she was using that, the situation must have been even worse than she imagined. The silver-haired man with a face mask. Kakashi the shinobi all said. And finally a regal woman with 3 eyes and pure white hair. Huh? Who's that? Ah! Naruto howled, clamping his hands to his head as he fell to his side. At that, Sakura, Ino and Asia all rushed to the boy's side and he was quickly enveloped in the soft green glow of medical chakra and the power of the twilight healing sacred gear. Naruto sat up shakily, nodding to the girls. Thanks. Damn, I feel like my head was just caught in a vice and someone shoved a cleaver through it. The orange and black wearing teen said. Something about that woman, something bad. He said grimly. The Konoha group paled. Something that was malevolent even by demon standards. Not good. Whoever that woman was, they didn't want to meet her. This was the final book of the series and she was on the last chapters. The main character, Menma Uzumaki. Wait, what? I'm in a book series. Naruto demanded at the sound of his surname. No. This guy's named after lactate fermented bamboo shoots, you're named after the word fish cake. Sakura said. Still, they are both common topping for noodle soups, notably Ramen Choji said, before he started to drool at the thought of food. That just clashed for the final time with his estranged friend and rival, Sasuke Uchiha. That is me, isn't it? Naruto said. No way, that's coincidence. There's no such thing. The clash had cost the two their dominant arms. But what? I get my arm blown off. Naruto said, paling. Hinata made a strangled squeak at the though. You blew off Sasuke's arm? Sakura said. I thought you were over him. Tenten said, feeling worried for the blonde, even as she pointed that out to Sakura to distract herself. But they had been able to get replacements for them thanks to the cells of their village's first leader. Hinata sighed, relieved. Naruto would be okay. While Menma had immediately taken the replacement, Sasuke refused and chose to travel the world. Before he left, Rias saw that he ran into Menma one last time and finally accepted the scratched headband from 3 years past. With the promise to see each other again, they went their separate ways. Yes. That means Sasuke gets redeemed. Sakura shouted, whooping. Everyone else that knew Sasuke, however, scowled with utter loathing at the thought. Damn it, Naruto. Sasuke didn't deserve being redeemed. Rias kept reading, and the story ended with Menma having married Hinata Hyuga and having 2 children. Wait. Stop. Ino said, smiling widely as some of the other ninjas' jaws dropped. Can you read that again? The story ended with Menma having married Hinata Hyuga and having 2 children. Surziches repeated. Again. The story ended with Menma having married Hinata Hyuga and having 2 children. Again. The story ended with Menma having married Hinata Hyuga and having 2 children. The guy. Okay, we get it. Niji snapped before the devil reread the sentence. Hinata couldn't take another of that, though he was secretly happy for his cousin. Tenten was beaming. It was no secret that Tenten and Hinata were actually best friends. The final scene showed him having finally achieved his dream as Hokage and showed the Hidden Leaf Village in Kurama, the 9-tailed fox that had been with Menma since the start. Wait, what? The fox has a name? Everyone from Konoha shouted stunned. Naruto grunted, holding his head, yeah, fox has a name. Ow, damn, chakra spike migraines. She closed the book and leaned her head back against the shelf she chose to sit in front of. Out of all of the books and anime in her collection, the story of Menma was her favorite. Naruto and Rias both blushed. To her, Menma was a hero who fought against his fate and saved his world. She wished she could do the same and escape the marriage she was fated to be in with Riser Phoenix, a pompous devil who saw her as nothing more than a trophy. At that, Surziches snarled. He had always hated that about Riser. Damn politics. If it hadn't been for his hands being tied, he would have vaporized that pompous turkey himself. Damn politics. Seeing the looks of outrage on the faces of his little sister's peerage and even some of the ninjas, he felt a twinge of gratitude. At least the feeling was shared. Praise all things holy and damned alike that Issei had gotten his sister out of that. At that thought, the redeemed man nodded to said self-proclaimed Red Dragon Harem King with a grateful look. Sighing, she knew that Menma was just a fantasy and despondently put the book back, returning to the reality that she despised. Steeling herself, she headed back to the main room to await the arrival of her peerage and her betrothed. All the while, she was desperately wishing for anyone to save her. NNGH, groaned a blond young man as he felt his damaged nerves connecting with foreign ones. That wasn't fun. That it wasn't, Naruto muttered, rubbing his right arm. Oh, don't be such a baby, playfully admonished the woman overseeing his operation. She had bright pink hair, green eyes, and a purple diamond mark on her forehead. You faced down Madara, Kagaya, and Sasuke-kun and took more than this. Ah. Naruto shouted, gripping his head again. What is about that second name that has OWWWW? Kagaya, she's that horn chick and something about her like she's something the demon considers a nightmare incarnated. Not the point, grumbled the blonde as he flexed the pale fingers of his new arm. From the elbow down, his tan complexion turned an immediate white and the only thing separating the 2 skin tones was a dark scar. Speaking of, where is Sasuke anyway, Sakura-chan? Of course Sakura would know that. Good doggy that she is. Tenten smirked. What did you say? Sakura demanded, bolting to her feet. You're Sasuke's lapdog. Tenten said, as though having to explain that 1 and 1 were 2. She had never liked the Haruno. She sighed with a downcast look at the question. He wanted his own room and requested not to see anyone after I attached his replacement arm. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's so different from how he used to be. Well duh. The guy was just pretty before, now he's completely psychotic. Kiba Inuzuka snarled, getting nods. We all are, the blonde commented in hopes of cheering her up. Sakura smiled at that, as annoying as he could be, there was no denying that Naruto was a good guy and always wanted to keep people he cared about happy. 3 years changes people. I'm sure he'll come around. She nodded, though it was hesitant. I hope so. Anyway, just take it easy for a while, Naruto. The arm needs some time to get better synchronized with your nerves. When she saw him nod, she smiled and hugged him gently. I'm glad you're alright, Baka. You're my best friend. Naruto smiled at that, feeling warm inside. Even if he would have liked it if they were more than that, it made him glad Sakura cared about him. Naruto Uzumaki smiled and hugged her back. Well, before he would have wanted to be more than friends, he had taken plenty of time to sort out his feelings. While he still loved Sakura, it was more along the lines of loving a sister. One that he never had before. As for Hinata, while he appreciated all that she had done and how she felt, he couldn't feel the same for her. She was a friend and she had been one for way too long. He couldn't see her as anything more. Crushing disappointment filled Hinata's face at that. Other him. Tenten pointed out. Hinata looked at the weapon mistress as if looking for hope. If this book was about how things were going to go in the future, she couldn't bear it. He sighed boredly and laid back on his bed, raising his new right arm and constantly flexing the fingers to get a better feel for it. He smiled at the generosity of the first Hokage, Hashirama. It would have been very difficult to get used to having only one arm, but now he just had to get used to a replaced arm. Note to self. Thank the first Hokage. Naruto mentally thought. Having to get used to having only one arm or a plastic prosthetic would have really sucked, but even if it was the same pale white as that half of that Zetsu guy's, from what the image showed, he would have a fully functional limb. After the first had made 2 arms for both him and Sasuke, the 4 late Hokage returned back to their rest. Before he left though, Minato Namikaze had wished his son, Naruto, nothing but the best. Naruto smiled softly at that. The Konoha group all gawked at that, then turned to Naruto, stunned. Wait, hold up. He's the 4th Hokage's kid. I don't believe this. All you had to do to see the resemblance was draw line marks like Naruto's on the face of a picture of the guy and it'd be obvious. Are you guys really that dense? Azazel said, disbelievingly. The group of Konoha shinobi all looked abashed and embarrassed. Not only that, but the 4 of them had all said that Naruto was already a Hokage in spirit and that he carried the will of fire in him. Hearing that from his heroes made Naruto grin. Just like he was hearing that now. It took all his self-control to avoid doing a victory dance. The Senju brothers, the old man, and his dad telling him that. Damn. He felt good. And promised to keep the will of fire strong. Of course. Naruto said, nodding along with the other Konoha shinobi. The Uzumaki sighed again as he stood up from his bed and grabbed the clothes that Sakura had left for him. When he was finished, he stood in a pair of orange cargo pants with an ash gray belt, a black shirt that had buttons on the sleeves and orange, where the zipper was, a mesh undershirt, and his hidden leaf headband sewed on the left shoulder of his black shirt. Not bad, but not really my style. Too much black and people could assume I'm emo. Naruto said, looking at the image. He slipped on his black sandals and the broken necklace that Tsunade gave him years ago, unbuttoned the right sleeve so his wrapped right arm had more freedom, and smiled before he left his room and made his way to the front desk to check out. His blue eyes blinked when he caught sight of Sasuke already at the desk. What's he doing there? He deserves to rot in some hole. The Konoha group, with the exception of Naruto and Sakura, all shouted. Man, what's this guy's deal? What did he do to make these guys hate him so much? Issy whispered to the rest of Rias' peerage, to which they shook their heads, not having a clue. He was dressed in a black shirt with a high collar, dark purple pants with his sword strapped behind him, black sandals, and a grey traveling cloak. He turned just in time to see Naruto, and the blonde saw that Sasuke's left eye was still active. It was a red eye with rings and 3 Tomo markings on each ring. The Rinnegan provided to him by Haguro Motsutsuki when he unlocked the Uchiha's link to Indra. Not again. Naruto moaned, gripping as his skull. Sheesh. Damn fox has a mouth on him. Whoever this Indra guy is, he really pisses off the fox. Make it stop. Naruto gave the Ravenet a warm grin and waved with his new right arm. Yo, Sasuke. He greeted as he approached. Glad to see you're alright. We really let each other have it, huh? The blonde chucked good-naturedly like he was reliving a fond memory while the Uchiha flexed his new arm unseen. Truth be told, the Uchiha was still very sore about how even he and the blonde fool in front of him were. Even after all the power he had at his disposal. It infuriated him beyond measure. Here we go, Sasuke's superiority and inferiority complexes rearing their ugly heads. Well, according to my dad, he's described Sasuke as superiority complex and inferiority complex, perpetuated by all those who bow to the Uchiha name. A self-proclaimed avenger consumed by the thought of vengeance. An antisocial loner despite having a bunch of groupies. In a psych evaluation. Ino said with a shrug. Blame his pride or his superiority complex, but Sasuke Uchiha was bitter about the fight. But, he didn't let his emotions show as he replied, yeah, I suppose we did. His bitterness slowly began to influence his thoughts, making him form a plan in his mind. Do you mind if we talk privately for a moment, Naruto? The blonde tilted his head in wonder at what Sasuke wanted to talk about, but he then shrugged and smiled. Sure thing. Just let me check out real quick. You idiot. Everyone reading shouted at Naruto all at once. Konoha ninja, angel, fallen angel, dragon, and devil alike. Without waiting for the Uchiha to acknowledge the request, he filled out the needed forms and then followed Sasuke to the training field that had belonged to Team 7 so long ago. Naruto smiled fondly at the area and murmured, definitely takes you back, doesn't it, Sasuke? The Uchiha couldn't help but agree as he regarded the 3 training posts. An image of Team 7 as fresh genin appeared for a brief moment before vanishing. It does. So, what did you want to talk about, Sasuke? I want to know why you tried so hard to stop me. Why were you so against my revolution when it was meant to prevent others from living the hell we endured? Revolution? Everyone wondered. What was Sasuke going on about? The Uzumaki blinked in surprise at the question. You're asking me that? Come on, Sasuke. You should know the answer to that. Sasuke frowned at that, showing Naruto that he did not. Sighing, Naruto elaborated, look, you're my friend Sasuke. If you went through with your revolution, you would have made yourself the enemy of the world. No better than Madara. Ah, the Nazi bit. Azazel said with distaste. I couldn't let you do that when I could help you. You've lived by hatred for so long, and it hurts to see how much it's changed you. You can't do everything on your own, you know. The matching eyes turned away from concerned blue ones, unable to look at them. I never asked for you to help me. I don't need your help, and I never did. Every non-shinobi in the group rolled their eyes. They'd all seen this guy's type, and it never ended well with someone like that. That's just your anger talking, countered Naruto. Let me in, Sasuke. I'm your friend. Yay, acknowledged Sasuke. You are my friend, but you're also the biggest obstacle in my life. I don't like where this is going, Choji said, wincing. The blonde frowned at the Uchiha's words while, within Naruto's seal, rabbit-like ears perked up and the blood-red eyes shot open. Following that was a deep voice yelling out, Naruto, watch out. But not anymore, finished Sasuke as he turned back to Naruto, his Rinnegan eye spinning its tomo rapidly and displacing the air around them. Kamui. He cried and Naruto was unable to react fast enough to avoid it. He tried to brace himself with his chakra and even called on his 6th path chakra. Make him stop already. Naruto yelped, gripping the sides of his head yet again. To try and hold him in place. However, the chakra appeared too late and Naruto was sucked away into the vortex while Sasuke fell to a knee from the chakra drain. His chakra hadn't recovered enough for him to do that without any drawbacks, but he had always been an impatient man. Understatement about Sasuke not knowing how to wait. Neji said with a scowl. The next thing he knew though was being surrounded by hidden leaf Anbu before feeling something strike the back of his head. Then, he only knew darkness. Busted. Everyone cheered. Oh, they were gonna like this. To answer your question, Haidu-san, began a silver-haired woman in a maid's uniform, the man standing before you is Riser Phoenix-sama and he is the husband-to-be for Rias-sama. Rias made a face of utter revulsion. Say what? Cried the brunette teen in anger. The smug look on the blonde's face really set him off. No kidding. It felt way better than it should have bashing his face in. Issei muttered. I'll say this once more, Rias started, glaring at the phoenix. I refuse to marry you, Riser. The blonde man merely laughed at her declaration. You and I both know that there's no way this marriage will be denied, my dear Rias. After all, our family lines are growing thin and a merging of the houses will be a great turning point for the future of us devils. I still refuse. I'll beat you in a raiding game and free myself from this pact between our houses. And how do you plan to do that with so few pieces? Do you think a solution will appear out of thin air? Dumbass jinxed himself. Shikamaru smirked, oh let the karma roll in. Judging from the looks on everyone else's faces, they agreed with him on that. He laughed again and Rias was about to retort before she and everyone else, save for Issei and Asia, tensed. A sudden feeling of immense energy output was felt and the space around the center of the room began to twist and swirl. From the distortion, the devils all took hold of the sight of a blond man stumbling out and falling to his knees. Hinata moaned. She didn't want to hear what was next. Rias blinked at the sight and Grafia narrowed her eyes in case he was a threat. However, when the man coughed up blood and held his stomach with a wrapped arm, Asia was the first to act. She rushed to his side and summoned forth her twilight healing, covering the man in a bright glow. Thank you. Naruto told the girl, making her smile, she liked helping people. You're a medic. Sakura and Ino asked the young nun, interested. Erg, he groaned as the pain slowly receded. When it was gone completely, he took in a deep breath of air before smiling at the nun-turned devil. Thanks for that, Ni-chan, he said, making Asia blush in embarrassment at the title. Issei gave Naruto a too friendly smirk, a glowing green oval appearing on the back of his hand as he did, try putting the moves on Asia and I cut your balls off and feed 'em to you through a tube. He said. I was just thanking her for fixing me up, not trying anything. The blonde said, causing Issei to calm down. And no. It was no problem at all, really. She replied, waving her hands frantically. He chuckled at her flustered face, being reminded of Hinata and how she acted before. You know that's not a bad comparison. Shino said, making his dog-using friend laugh and both Asia and Hinata blushed. Standing up, he regarded everyone in the room with a critical eye, impressing Grafia at how he was ready to act in a moment's notice. Can someone tell me where I am, please? He asked politely. Some bastard sent me here with that damn eye of his and I'd like to see if I can get back home. I believe it would be more prudent to know who you are first, suggested the maid as she stepped forward and stood between the man and Rias. Me? Oh, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, from the Hidden Leaf Village. Ria's eyes widened in shock at his answer before she moved out from behind Grafia, much to her protest. Did this man use a red rippled eye that had Tomo around the rings? Yay. Answered Naruto with a grin while the others looked lost. So, do you know how I can get home, Red-chan? Really? She asks you something like that and you find nothing strange about how she even knew that? Sakura asked, annoyed. Naruto shrugged. How was I or this other me, I mean supposed to know this is a different dimension altogether? He whatever probably thought it's just somewhere in the elemental nations. He defended his other, getting the others to nod at his words. Well, Issei fumed at the nickname that Naruto's other just gave the other Rias. She was silent in shock, not hearing his question, while her mind ran at full speed. It shouldn't be possible. He was just a character, and his name was Menma. This guy can't be him, can he? I'm sorry, but no. Close though. Naruto said with an apologetic shrug and smile at the retreated girl. Red-chan? Asked Uzumaki. Are you okay? Oh, she's fine, just starstruck. Akeno giggled, making Rias cry out at that in protest. Hey. Interrupted Riser before Rias could answer, making Naruto turn to him. No one knows where your pathetic village is. Pathetic? The Leaf loyalist shouted in outrage. Only Rias and Grafia saw Naruto's fingers twitch. Act this jerk. At least let my other get a camera first if you're going to knock him out. Rias said, knowing that she'd want a photo to preserve the scene of Riser getting beaten on. Now why don't you just leave, trash? This meeting doesn't concern you. Now, that's just rude, commented Naruto with a pout, fingers twitching again. I never did anything to you and you're already mad at me. Jeez. You interrupted this meeting and you're speaking to my fiancé so freely. Argued Riser. I'm not his fiancé. Rias said angrily, her peerage shouting in agreement with her. Your fiancé? You mean Red-chan? He mentally noted how the beautiful black-haired woman in Ria's group giggled behind her sleeve. Akeno blushed at that. Beautiful. Issei sent Naruto an ugly look of resentment. This guy was going to get in the way of his goal of becoming a harem king. Yes. Now stop calling her that. Oh shit, I'm thinking like Riser. Damn it. That's total bullshit. The brunette thought, horrified, dropping his hostility towards the ninja. He hummed out loud thoughtfully before turning back to Rias. You don't mind me calling you that, do ya? Rias turned to Riser, seeing how he was fuming before a smirk came to her face. Rias smiled at the image. Undoubtedly this alternate of herself was enjoying seeing Riser get so upset she knew she was. Please continue calling me that, Naruto. She chirped happily, beaming at said blonde, making Hinata growl and clenched her fists. Not at all, Naruto-kun, she answered, relishing in Riser's growing anger. I am. Rias said with shameless glee. But, you should know that he's not my fiancé. He's actually a pompous fool who I'm in an arranged marriage with. And I hated it. Ouch, commented the Uzumaki with a chuckle. Definitely could do better than him. I mean, with that overgrown stick so far up his ass, I wouldn't be surprised if he played for the same team. Everyone loyal to the Leaf Village felt their jaws drop while Rias and her peerage all burst out laughing. Oh my god. Please tell me we're keeping this guy. We're keeping this guy. I need to hear we're keeping this guy. Rias howled, clutching her ribs and ignoring the sudden headache she got at the mention of God. Naruto gulped. Sure, Rias seemed nice, but he didn't like the idea of being her property. Rias' peerage, save for the ever-stoic Kaneko and the innocent Asia, snickered at his comment, while Riser was so angry that his demonic power was leaking out and heating up the room. Grafia stopped him though with a sharp look before she cleared her throat, catching Naruto's attention. No. Don't kill the amusement. Yudo, Kiba shouted, horrified, as Ria's group finally calmed down. Uzumaki-san, unfortunately I have never heard of a hidden leaf village before. However, I believe that my king should be able to help you. If you would come with me after this meeting, I'll take you to see him. The whiskered blonde grinned, making a few of Riser's peerage blush. Sheesh, even bird butts girls are charmed just by him smiling. Inuzuka asked. This other Naruto was a lucky son of a bitch. Issei grit his teeth. Thanks a bunch, Ni-sama. Friendly guy, aren't ya? Surziches chuckled. Naruto shrugged. Nothing wrong with that, am I right? The current Satan smirked and shook his head. He saw no trouble with that at all. My name is Grafia Lucifuge, Uzumaki-san. Right, Grafia-ni. He answered back, never losing his grin. The woman merely rolled her eyes, but said nothing. The young man before her acted too much like her husband. What's wrong with that? Surziches asked, crossing his arms over his chest and pouting. Rias and her sister-in-law shared a look, both agreeing that was a question that they wouldn't even humor with a response. But it was a nice change of pace at the same time. Please wait outside for a moment, Uzumaki-san. This meeting is almost finished. Sure thing. He then turned to Rias and gave her a two-fingered salute. Well, I'll see you around, Red-chan. Good luck with the lonely nights. All that guy needs is his anal stick. Rias and her group snickered again. They loved hearing that. He then made his way outside of the clubroom and ignored the look of pure hatred Riser was sending his way. Naruto shrugged. Had a lot of people hate me, I can pretty much shrug it off. Issei sent Naruto a thumbs up, sure he may not like how the guy was so charming towards the ladies of the occult research club, but he'd be lying if he said he didn't like how easy it was for this guy to get Riser so pissed. Leaning against the wall outside, he took note of a few people walking around in matching clothes. He deduced that they were in uniforms of some kind and that Red-chan and her group were stationed here. After some time, Rias stepped out and turned to him. The meeting is over now, Uzumaki-san. I will be taking you to my king now. So, what exactly are you all? Asked the blonde. I mean, you're not human, are you? Rias peerage shrugged. Well, some of us were. But no, we're not anymore. Yudo said. You're correct. However, I believe my king would be able to explain things better than I. He'll tell you all about it while you two talk. Right, nodded Naruto. I'll just ask him then. Also, added the woman, you must understand that it isn't normal for humans to be brought to our world unless we're making them one of our kind. However, your unique energy will make this an exception. But, if you try anything. Why would I? Naruto asked incredulously, feeling offended. Hey, believe me. Interrupted Naruto as he raised his hands in a placating manner. I won't try anything. Promise. You guys can help me try to get back home, right? She nodded in response. Then I won't do anything that could ruin my chances. You think I'd blow something like that? Naruto said. Good. Now, please stand next to me. Once he did, she opened up the portal, hiding their presence from the students around the school, and transported the two of them to the underworld. Hinata paled at the thought of Naruto in hell. Naruto's fine, he's just going there to find a way back home is all. She thought frantically. Before they fully disappeared, Naruto turned to the window of the clubroom and caught sight of Rias and her peerage one last time. He grinned at them just as he vanished, missing Rias' smile at him. Issei's jaw dropped. Rias smiled at this guy. No way. Sure, he was a good guy and he made a good first impression, but he couldn't help but feel jealous. Oh, looks like you've got some competition, Irayumori. Kuroka teased, grinning. At that, Issei gulped at the sudden surges of murderous intent that were directed at him from all the Kunoichi. Pervy salamander. But you, giggled Akeno, her queen. You seem to be quite smitten with Uzumaki-kun. Indeed you are. Akeno giggled. You're looking too far into things again, Akeno, commented the red-haired devil. He's just very charismatic for a human. Tsuori. Akeno and Kuroka both drawled out, grinning knowingly. Too carefree, commented Kaneko as she took a bite out of some candy. Not serious enough. Naruto pouted towards the white-haired girl, I can be serious, but unless the situation calls for it, I'd rather not be that way all the time. He said. That was Sasuke. Hiba gave the white-haired girl a smile and commented, I think he was actually very serious. He seems like the type to have others underestimate them and find out their real strength too late. Thank you. The whiskered male told his fellow blonde, nodding to the night piece carrier. But just how strong is he? Asked Issei, crossing his arms. He just seemed like a goofball. Because he is. Sakura said, smirking. Making Naruto protest. Rias bit her bottom lip, an idea coming to her that seemed too crazy to go through with. I think I could answer that. But, she gave them all a serious look, even Akeno, I need you all to have an open mind about this. What I'll be suggesting will sound crazy. Even by devil standards. So, I want your word that you won't judge me based on my theory. Rias, you already know the answer to that, Akeno stated, using her friend's name to show that she was serious. Kaneko and Kiba nodded alongside her, showing the Gremory heiress their support. You showed me enough craziness already, commented Issei with a small chuckle. I think I can handle some more. True that. This whole thing is crazy. We're meeting people from another dimension, all reading a book about ourselves. Issei chuckled. I would never judge you, but you, Asia promised with a smile. Rias smiled back at them. Thank you. Now, follow me, she said before she began to lead them to her collection room. Rias blushed in embarrassment at the mention of her collection room again. I have to say, whatever these things are definitely have high tastes, commented Kurama as he looked through Naruto's eyes. An actual castle for a home seems a bit much though. I think this lady's king is pretty high up in this place's political food chain. He is. I am. The non-human members of the reading group said. Naruto, you should know that I can barely sense anyone that has chakra to use. What? I know. There's a chance that you. Kurama interrupted Naruto as he followed Grafia through the halls of the Gremory estate. I know, but I can't give up on there being a chance. I just can't. The fox was silent after that, knowing that his friend needed a moment to himself. He knew better than anyone that Naruto was never one to give up, no matter the stakes or obstacles. It was what made the Biju choose to believe in him. Naruto's jaw dropped. The fox believed in him. So, he would do what he could to help support the man he called his friend. Friend? The fox saw him as okay, what had happened to make it, so that was how the nine-tailed fox saw him. Naruto needed to know. Rias stopped outside of a room and turned back to Naruto. In here is where you will talk to my king. I must reiterate that you are a guest here that could be a potential enemy to us. I know that, replied Naruto. And I promise to not cause trouble. Now, can we please go in so that I can speak to him? The woman looked him dead in the eye for a few moments before she nodded and opened the double doors, presenting a red-headed man in regal attire, sitting behind a desk and going over paperwork. Naruto immediately saw the relation between the man and Rias and assumed that the man was either her father or her brother. Brother. The devils all said in unison. Sasuke-sama, started Grafia with a formal bow, I have brought the man I messaged you about. The man looked up from his desk, smiling at the maid. Grafia-chan, you don't need to be so formal, you know. You're not just my maid, after all. Naruto had to bite back a chuckle as he saw the woman's brow twitch at the man's laid-back attitude. Naruto gave Shikamaru and then Sasuke a look, you know you two and Kakashi-sensei would all get along great. Shikamaru shrugged. Being a laid-back guy himself, he could buy that. Still, he cleared his throat and stepped forward. Sasuke-san, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and I'm from a place known as the Hidden Leaf Village, which resides in the Elemental Nations. I was hoping you could tell me how to get back there since I was sent away by someone who I once considered a friend and brother. The man cupped his chin in thought, going over all the places that he knew. I'm not sure I can help you, Naruto-san. You see, I've heard and been to hundreds of different places and I don't recall anything about a Hidden Leaf Village or these Elemental Nations. He then gave the blonde a concerned look, asking, are you sure that these places you've mentioned exist? Of course they exist, damn it. Yelled Naruto, glaring at the man heatedly. Those places are my home and I've already had one asshole insulted within 5 minutes of me arriving here. No kidding, that guy's an asshole. Ino muttered, she and the other female ninja completely got why Rias would hate having to marry a guy like that. I meant no offense, placated Sasuke as he raised his hands up. I'm just unsure how I can help you when I've never heard of such places. Sorry for getting mad then. Naruto apologized. No need for that. You didn't know I was unaware of you, homeland. No harm done. Sasuke replied. But I must ask, how can a human such as yourself have such vast stores of chakra within them? Old people in the elemental nations use chakra. It's not just an energy to us. It's a life force. Kaneko paled and squirmed a bit. The idea of that making her uncomfortable. Hiroka on the other hand, looked interested at that tidbit. I see, then this makes what I'm about to say even more difficult. He sighed before looking Naruto in the eye, declaring, no such places exist in our world or in the human one. A whole nation full of chakra users would have been found easily by us or others, and the location wouldn't be unknown. The blonde grit his teeth and clenched his eyes tightly, tightening his shaking fist to rein in his anger. Damn it, I was hoping you wouldn't say that, he stated before he started to murmur to himself. If that's true, then Sasuke's Kamui must have been more potent than Obito's, there's no way I can get home. Naruto gawked, then he slumped over, depressed. I'm sorry, Naruto. Don't be, Kurama. I knew that this could have been a possibility. But seriously. A different world entirely. That's just not right. Fucking Rinnegan and its cheap power boosts, he mentally grumbled. Sasuke gets the what? The leaf ninja shouted. That was bad. Naruto-san, Sasuke said, getting the blonde's attention. Your home may not exist here, but we are able to travel between our world and the human one connected to us at will. If we were to put more effort into figuring out the links between worlds, it could be possible for us to help you. Thanks for that. Naruto said, cheering up instantly, bowing deeply to the groups of devils. What are you guys anyway? Asked Naruto, cutting him off before he could continue. You admit you're not human, and I can tell by the energy you give off. That's true. In fact, our energy is seen as much darker than most. Especially to those who are religious. You see, we are devils. Devils? Asked Naruto with a raised brow before taking a seat in the chair Grafia offered him. Nodding to her in thanks, he continued, so what, is this hell or something? Because if it is, then it's not as bad as I thought it'd be. Ugh, hate the usual fire, brimstone and eternal torture rep. The devils all groaned. The man chuckled and sat down at his desk. Yes, this is the underworld, or hell. I hope you're comfortable because this explanation will take a while. It was around an hour later that Sasuke finally finished telling Naruto about the devils, angels, and fallen angels, fallen for short. He told the Uzumaki about how God existed and how the devils have 4 great satans instead of just one in religion. Then he went on to explain items known as sacred gears and finally the evil peace system. Which explained why Grafia referred to him as he king. Alright, I understand what you've told me, began Naruto as he took a drink of the water Grafia gave him, but I have another question. If you're supposedly the strongest devil both politically and physically, then why can't you stop this arranged marriage that your relative seems to hate so much? Believe me, if I could have, I would have. Surzicha said distastefully. You mean my sister Rias Tan? He asked in slight surprise. When did you meet her? When he arrived, explained Grafia, it was during the meeting between her and Rias-sama. Rias-sama seemed to know about Uzumaki-san. I wonder how and why. Akino giggled. Rias gave her best friend a look. Is that so? The man then cupped his chin and leaned back in his chair. To answer your question, Naruto-san, I can't help because a leader cannot pick favorites. Even from their own kin. I can't interfere in this because of that. Not to mention how it's meant to save both our houses from dying out. Still, if I were in your position, I'd say to screw politics and help my family. Policy isn't eternal, but family is damn near close to it, commented Naruto, making Surzicha smile. Surzich nodded at Naruto, okay, I can very much say I like that. You're alright by me. The Satan said. True. However, I never said I wasn't going to help her. The politics in play just make me have to be sneaky about it. You told me you were a ninja, right? The blonde nodded. Well, how would you like to help me out? Rias perked up and Naruto rubbed his hands together, grinning. Oh, we can do business, Zetches. He said. Naruto saw the gleam in the man's eyes and couldn't help the grin that formed on his face. What did you have in mind? The office blinked. She was bought in so soon. The Ouroboros dragon hadn't expected that. The girl looked down from her perch atop the main church while a black cat rested on her shoulder. Garuka waved at the image Hello Kitty. Naya. She said, grinning. Hineko rolled her eyes at her sister's antics. Garuka, spoke the girl calmly. I have a job for you. And I have a feeling what that job is, the Nekomata thought, eyeing Naruto. The cat jumped off of the girl and landed on the roof behind her before she transformed into a more humanoid figure. She was a young woman with a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs and hazel eyes with cat-like pupils. Her attire consisted of a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. The kimono featured a red interior and it was open at her shoulders, giving view to her large breasts which had plenty of size. She also had a pair of cat ears on her head and two black cattails. "NYA," she moaned as she stretched her arms over her head. "What do you need, Office-sama?" "As if you don't know. Nii-san, how can you miss this guy's chakra levels?" Kaneko said, pointing a thumb at Naruto. Garuka nodded indeed. And broke out laughing. Earlier, someone with a tremendous level of chakra appeared in Japan. They then disappeared with one of the higher level devils to what I can assume to be the underworld. Turning to the Nekomata, the gothic girl continued, I want you to head over to Japan and observe the person. Sway them to my cause in any way you can. Naruto didn't much like that phrase. Sway them to my cause in any way you can usually meant trouble. Any way I can, eh? Kuroka said, her eyes seemed to glint with playful wickedness, as though they were just itching to cause trouble, and she licked her lips. Making Hinata activate her Byakugan and start to stand, but Niji grabbed her wrist and pulled her back down. Sure thing, Naya. Replied Kuroka before she opened her own portal and prepared to leave. Before she did, she turned back to her boss and asked, I can check on my little Shirin-chan too, right? Hineko winced at the use of her real name. The office shrugged. So long as you focus on the task I've given you, I see no problem with that. The office didn't look at her as she answered, so long as you focus on the task I've given you, I see no problem with that. No need to repeat yourself. Kiba and Zuka snickered, to which office glared and the dog handler froze, the silhouette of a massive creature with glowing eyes and massive wings flashing through his mind, roaring in a way that clearly meant he was going to die. Shutting up now. He squeaked, hiding behind Akamaru suddenly. The office nodded, satisfied, while Kuroka laughed and Konkyo nodded. They were cats, after all, they didn't like dogs. Thanks boss, Naya. She then left Rome, heading over to Kuo in Japan. You honestly expect me to allow that trash to take part in the raiding game? He's a human, and a common fool at that. Argued Riser as he stood before Surzichas, Grafia, and Naruto. Naruto growled and I could still kick your ass. He hissed. True, he is human. However, this, the redeeded Satan held up a strange piece, will allow Naruto-san to temporarily become a pawn for a devil's peerage and take part in a raiding game. Wait, what? Ajuka said, suddenly interested, how was that possible? Evil pieces were permanent. He'd have to pay attention to this. He pulled out a pen and pad of paper, ready to take notes. Besides, the man smiled at the blonde devil before him, are you saying that one more person fighting you will be that big of an issue? Damn it, what's so special about the evil piece? Ajuka muttered. Ha! Take that, ego boy. Rias cheered, then smiled at her brother. Riser scowled at the jab at his pride. I'm not saying that at all, Lucifer-sama. Of course. Everyone, devils, angels, dragon, fallen angel, and shinobi said at once flatly in annoyance. This Riser bozo was just trying to save face. He then turned to Naruto, who was smirking at him, and glared. Very well, but I want another stake to be added to this game. Oh great, Rias muttered. Go on, Surziches said. When I win, this fool will forever serve me without question, the Phoenix declared as he pointed at Naruto. As if. Can I kick this guy's ass now? Naruto said, rubbing his knuckles. Rias and her peerage smiled at Naruto's question. They were definitely liking this guy. I'm fine with that, agreed Naruto. And if you lose? I won't, stated the other blonde firmly. Issei and the others that knew how the rating game had gone all winced. Let's just say that you do, continued Naruto. What happens then? Sheesh, confidence isn't an issue with you, is it? Yudo asked Naruto. Naruto nodded nope. Besides, anything can happen in a fight, right? He asked, getting everyone to nod at his words. Surziches and Grafia watched on silently, though the Redeed held back his own smirk at how well his plan was going. Riser then snapped his fingers and a woman appeared from the Phoenix family portal. She was a busty woman with long, wavy purple hair that fell all the way down her back and matching eyes. At the front, the right side of her hair fell over her breast and covered her right eye, while the left side falls near the top of her skirt. Her attire was a dress consisting of a navy blue tunic top with gold accents, a pale blue skirt with open sides, and black shoes over matching thigh-high stockings with garter belts. The top revealed much of her cleavage and was held with a gold choker with blue and red jewels. Over this, she wore a wide overcoat with black and gold accents and matching pauldrons. For accessories, she wore a black headband with a red-orange jewel over her forehead to keep her long hair in place and wielded a staff-like scepter in battle. For cosmetics, she wears purple lipstick, matching her eyes and hair. Ubaluna Keno said, recalling her fight with one known as the Bomb Queen. She would have won if Ubaluna hadn't used Phoenix Tears. If I lose, which, again, won't happen, I'll offer up my queen, Ubaluna, stated Riser, shocking the woman at his statement. Everyone stopped, stunned. Then the protest started. He what? What an asshole. Bastard. Who does he think he is, betting a person like that? What a. Why am I not surprised? Oh, I am gonna enjoy beating the shit out of him. Naruto snapped. Our Riser-sama. She cried out in protest, but she then shrunk back when the Phoenix turned to her with a heated look. Bowing her head, she stepped back behind her king. You really are a bastard, aren't you? Asked Naruto angrily. Everyone cheered and pat Naruto on the back. Making Ubaluna look up from behind the Phoenix. It was only then that she realized that the blonde man from before was challenging her king. How could you just offer up your queen like that? She is my piece to do with as I please. Ugh, this Sanova bitch sounds just like Danzo. Kiba Inuzuka hissed in sheer revulsion, getting the others from Konoha, except for Sai to nod in agreement. Now, do you accept or not, trash? Bet your ass I am, no way am I gonna let that woman stay stuck with you. Naruto spat, red chakra flaring around him for a second. The Uzumaki frowned at the other blonde before nodding slowly. Fine, I accept. Besides, you just gave me another reason to kick your ass. Oh? Yeah, I'm gonna get Red-chan out of this arranged marriage, and I'm also gonna free an innocent queen from the asshole she calls her king. You can count on it. Go Naruto. Shove this guy's head out his ass. All the women screamed in support. No way was Riser allowed to win, not after pulling something like this. Naruto. You better make this hurt. Sakura warned, grabbing her teammate by his collar. No need to threaten me. As if I'd let him get away with this kind of crap. Don't you know me better by now? The Uzumaki said. Ubaluna looked to the Uzumaki in surprise at his conviction before a small smile crossed her face. Riser scoffed at the declaration before turning to Surziches. I'll let him fight for Rias. It'll be a privilege to roast him alive on the battlefield. You wish, head. Bring it on. Naruto scowled. Excellent. Replied Surziches with a smile. Well, I'll see you in 2 weeks, Riser-san. Come along, Naruto-san. I need to take you back to Ria's tent so that you can train with her peerage. Right, answered the whiskered blonde before he left with Surziches and Grafia, giving Ubaluna one last smile before he disappeared. Reassuring her that everything'll be okay. How sweet. Ino said, nodding in approval. Riser scoffed again and headed back inside his family's estate, leaving the queen outside, staring at where the strange blonde man once stood. The smile from before reformed on her face and she thought to herself, I hope you win, Naruto Uzumaki. Who's scheming treason to make sure Riser loses? Kuroka said, rooting the queen holder on with that choice. She then headed inside with a small spring in her step. 2 weeks would be over in the blink of an eye and she wanted to be ready for the rating game that was coming. Chapter 2. I'll go next, Kuroka said, taking the book from the current Devil King. The first thing Naruto took in when the portal closed was the sight of many trees and some mountainous terrain. Turning around, he saw a manor fit for a noble vacation home and sighed. Do rich people, even devils, have to flaunt their wealth? He asked, making Surzich's sweat drop and Grafia raise a brow. True. That place is freaking huge. Issy said. I didn't think the house was all that fancy when it was built, the redeeted Satan tried to reason. Everyone shot the male Redita look, making him cough self-consciously. Please, continue reading. Sure thing, Naya. Kuroka said. Maybe it's just me then. I never had much money back home. Hell, my apartment was in one of the poorer districts. He shrugged and then turned back to his temporary host. So, you said Red-chan and her peerage were planning on training here to face Mr. Personality, right? Precisely. Knowing my sister, she'll focus on her newest pieces since they would need the most help. They should all be here in a moment or two. Not even a minute after he said that, another couple of portals bearing the Gremory House crest appeared before Rias and her peerage stepped through them. As soon as they saw the trio, the younger Gremory stepped forward. Nai-sama, what are you doing here? Smiling, the man channeled his inner Sis-Con and hugged his sibling tightly, making her turn as red as their hair in embarrassment as he squeezed her. Oh, Rias-tan. I've missed you so much. Why don't you visit your Nai-sama? Grace moaned and buried her face in her hands. Not again. Sweat dropping, the blonde Uzumaki turned to the Silverette Queen and asked, does this happen a lot? Yes. Rias muttered into her hands, making her brother look embarrassed. Unfortunately, the woman sighed before she stepped forward and dragged her husband off of his sister by his cheek, stretching it painfully and making him struggle to get loose. Surzich's-sama, this is neither the time nor place for such foolish antics. Your sister is waiting for you to explain why we're here. Thank you, Grafia, Rias muttered, looking up again. She then let go of his cheek and the Satan rubbed the mark that had begun to form there. Spoilsport, he mumbled before a sharp look from his wife cowed him. Shikamaru shuddered. This Grafia woman was just like his mom. Wait, does that mean mom's a devil too, he wondered, paling at the thought. Would certainly explain a few things as far as the lazy Chiknin was concerned. He then cleared his throat and turned to his sister. To answer your question, I'm here to drop off Naruto-san so that he may train with you and your peerage. But, why would he train with us? He's not a devil, and he's not a part of my peerage, Rias replied, though she mentally added, unfortunately. Hinata glared. What does that mean? She demanded. But he will be for the rating game, answered Surzich's. Ajuka pulled out his pen and pad of paper again, ready to take notes. Finally. That evil piece would be explained. He had to take notes on this. You see, there were a couple of experimental pieces that Beelzebub made that allowed non-devils to temporarily join a peerage for events such as ratings games. They wouldn't become full devils and they'd only be classified as pawns, but it could help peerages that have fewer members fill in their ranks for a single event. In this case, Naruto-san will temporarily become your pawn for the rating game. That's brilliant. Ajuka said, copying all that down so he could get to work on these temporary pieces himself. Then he saluted, my respects to the other me. The younger devils were surprised by the ingenuity of the temporary piece, and Akeno stepped forward. Lucifer-sama, what happens to Uzumaki-kun when the game ends? The piece disappears and nothing else happens. He doesn't become a devil and stays human. Piece disappears, nothing else happens. Doesn't become a devil and stays human, got it? Ajuka repeated as he wrote. The other leaders of the new Satan faction chuckled, it was amusing seeing how excited Ajuka was. But needless to say, they understood why something like this would get him worked up as an inventor. Need to figure out how to do that with the brave saint cards as well, Archangel Michael said thoughtfully. It really was an incredible invention. Why wasn't something like this mentioned before, Lucifer-sama? Asked Kiba. Because it has only recently been perfected for use. This rating game will be used to help promote them so that other devils can utilize them. Though Beelzebub expects compensation for each one made. Of course. The Beelzebub said, nodding. Rias was ecstatic. She now had another person to help her against Riser, and if he really was like Menma from the Hurricane Chronicles, then he'd mop the floor with a pompous prick. Gladly, Rias. Just let me at him. Naruto said, grinning. Rias smiled at Naruto for that. Turning to Naruto, she smiled brightly and bowed to him. Thank you so much for doing this. The Uzumaki chuckled and shook his head. Don't thank me. It was your brother's idea after all. Her eyes widened in surprise and she turned to Surzich's, who smiled at her. I may not have been able to act publicly, but that doesn't mean I won't help my sister in secret. All I did was play on Riser-sen's pride. He then blinked when he felt his sister hug him without himself initiating it. Looking down, he saw her smiling warmly and heard her say, thank you, Ani-chan. Wait, what was that last part? Surziches said, eyes wide, and he grabbed the book and read it himself. Once he did, he dropped the book, numb with shock. No way, he said, then beamed. Here. Shino said, handing the book back to Kuroka. She took it back with a nod and resumed reading. He smiled back and rubbed her head affectionately. No problem, Imauto. Naruto, Rias peerage, and even Grafia smiled at the scene before Rias pulled back. So, Naruto-san will be training with us and take part in the game, and we have 2 weeks, supplied the Satan. 2 weeks, I can work with that. She then turned to her peerage and said, you all can go unpack inside. We'll start training in a moment. They nodded and headed inside, though Akeno made sure to give Naruto a flirty wink. Hinata glared at Akeno. But he didn't react to. Hinata stopped glaring and nodded. Good. Naruto was hers. No way were these hussies going to snatch him away. Kurama, from the seal, palmed his muzzle and groaned. He's as dense as a sobu's shell, he mumbled with a shake of his head. Huh? Who the heck is Naruto, said, only for an image of a familiar turtle to flash through his mind. The Three Tails. He said. Naruto-san, began the Gremory heiress, I want to talk to you for a moment before we start training with the others. Sure thing, replied the blonde before turning to Surziches and Grafia. Thanks for the lift and for explaining things to me. I hope you guys can figure a way for me to get back home. We'll do what we can, but this kind of research won't be easy. You'll need to be patient with us, Naruto-san, explained the elder Gremory. Naruto nodded in understanding and he turned to his sister. Best of luck, Rias-tan. I really hope you win. I will, stated Rias confidently, giving a sideways glance at Naruto. I know I will. You really think highly of Naruto's abilities. Sakura noted. And you don't. Rias countered bluntly. Sakura didn't comment. Rias had scored a hit there. Naruto had earned that respect from all of the Leaf by stopping pain. The man chuckled at his sister before he left with his queen back to the underworld. Once they left, Naruto turned to his new host and asked, so, what did you want to talk about? The young woman took a deep breath and looked the blonde in the eye, making him frown in concern. I want to show you something that might shock you, but I need to know if the theory I have about you is true, Menma-san. His eyes widened slightly before they narrowed again sharply. So now I'm going to find out what's up. Naruto said. Giving a slow nod, he followed her inside the manor. The groan was heard, and the last living Uchiha of the world opened his eyes blearily within a prison cell beneath the Hidden Leaf mountainside. A frown crossed his face as his vision felt off before his brows rose in shock and his left hand shot to his left eye. Except, the eye wasn't there and an empty socket was all he felt. Bastard got his. Everyone but Sakura cheered, she looked horrified. In his shock, he also missed the visitor he had outside of his cell before a woman was heard clearing her throat. He turned to the source and his remaining eye met the furious honey-colored eyes of Tsunade Senju. This is gonna NBAD, Kuroka sing-songed, getting everyone to laugh while Sakura wanted to strangle the cat. Sasuke-Uchiha, you are beyond lucky to be alive right now, she growled out as her fingers pressed hard into her crossed arms, showing her barely restrained rage. As you have no doubt noticed, your left eye has been removed from you. What you don't know is that we took your right eye as well and replaced it with one from someone recently passed. What? Sakura screamed. At this, she held up a handheld mirror, letting the Uchiha see that his once onyx eye was now a dull brown color. Why didn't they give him the other eye, too? Akeno asked. Everyone else shrugged. He looked at his own reflection in shock as the Senju tossed a mirror at his feet. You really are an idiot. You had just been dismissed of everything charged against you because of Naruto, and what did you do? He fucked up, that's what. Inuzuka laughed. He was silent, which made her clench her hands hard enough to crack the knuckles. Answer me. What did you do? He flinched at her roar and looked up at her face, seeing pure and unfiltered anger in her eyes. I got rid of him, answered Sasuke. That's what I did. I took care of the one person who always stood in my way and tried to butt into things that didn't concern him. He looking out for my best friend shouldn't be my concern. Naruto said, glaring. Her eyes narrowed at him and she asked calmly, does the friendship that you once had with Naruto and Sakura mean so little to you? I severed those bonds long ago. I don't need them and I never did, stubbornly answered the Uchiha. Ugh, what an ass. Kuroka said as she paused in her reading, wrinkling her nose in disgust, getting nods and mutters of agreement from everyone besides Sakura, who was too shocked at what Sasuke was saying. Again, you're an idiot. Yes, he is. The angels, fallen angels, and devils all agreed. You're saying you didn't need them at all against Obito? Huh? Who's Obito? Naruto asked, to which he got no response but a shrug from his fellow ninjas. How about against Madara? Kagaya and that black Zetsu? Ah. Damn it. Not again. Make it stop. Naruto moaned, gripping his head. Why was the fox getting so damn worked up? Each question made Sasuke clench his fists tighter and tighter. He knew what she was pointing out, but his pride wouldn't let him give her the satisfaction of admission. Arrogant bum. Azazel said. Shaking her head, Tsunade turned around and made her way out of the visiting area outside of his cell. Your chakra has been completely sealed off by the best sealers in all 5 of the hidden villages. You sent away a hero and a friend of all nations, Ichiha, and now you're going to rot in here for it. Turning back, she gave him a harsh look and finished, I wonder how long you last as you slowly starve to death. Sakura looked horrified that her mentor would do such a thing. The great Uchiha clan, what a waste, and how shamed your ancestors must be for spitting on any chance for redemption. Now that I'd like to see. Seraphil said. The door closed harshly, and the cell was left shrouded in shadows as Sasuke sat in solitude. No food, water, or bed were supplied to him. Sitting against one of the walls, he reached a hand up and traced the socket of his empty left eye. He did nothing else as he finally got what he had sought after. The darkness, the cruel, lonely darkness. Ishin, this guy's your best friend? Yudo asked Naruto. The other blonde shrugged, long story. He said. Naruto looked down at the table before him in shock, eyes wide and mouth agape. Before him rested a book. A book that had his picture on it along with Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Kagaya. What the hell is this? He whispered out as he turned the pages, seeing illustrations of the final fights of the 4th Great Ninja War. That has gotta be weird, Tenten said, getting nods of agreement all around. Wait, there's a 4th Ninja War? Naruto said, horror struck. The author must have been going for drama when that book was made, something like that might not happen with us. Shikamaru said, knowing that they were supposed to keep the 4th war secret from Naruto. Naruto calmed down at that, seemed a reasonable explanation. It's your story, answered Rias softly as she sat across from where he stood. In that, you're known as Menma Uzumaki, the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, finished Naruto as he set the book down. Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto said, savoring the name. He grinned. Finally. He finally knew his mom's name. He loved it. Yay, I know. I met my other self once before in an alternate reality from my own. Naruto shrugged at the looks he was given, must not have happened yet. He said. The only difference is that everyone from his version of my life was different in some manner or way. What does that have to do with this? He shook the manga book for emphasis. Well, if he's you then that book is the last one of his story. But everyone else in the book is exactly how they are in my world, argued Naruto. Only my character has changes to them and that's my parents being alive. Wait, what? Naruto shouted. His jaw hanging. So this alternatum Menma he actually got to be with his parents. Lucky bastard. He slammed the book down on a page where it showed Menma and his new wife, Hinata, posing for a photo alongside Minato and Kushina. Rias looked at the page in sad realization, knowing that this had to be nothing short of frustrating to the blonde before her. Your parents weren't alive in your life, she murmured. I thought that. Other me. Besides. How couldn't the other me freak out over this? Naruto yelped, seeing the death look Surziches sent him. That what? Interrupted Naruto angrily. That I was some kind of storybook character that you knew everything about. Well, sorry to say that I'm not Menma. I am Naruto. Nobody else. I'm not saying that you are. Rias tried to reason. I just wanted you to know why I know about you and your life. But you don't know, firmly stated the Uzumaki as he stood over her, making her nervous. You only know a character from some story, you don't know me. With that, he turned and left, slamming the door behind him as Rias looked at the book on the table sadly. Slowly, she grabbed it and looked at the cover for a few moments. He's right, she thought to herself, feeling ashamed. How could I be so stupid as to think that he was the same as Menma? She scowled at the book, her hand trembling in her growing anger, and threw it across the room with an enraged shout before she buried her face in her hands. The one person who could help me and I might have made him decide against it in the span of 1 hour. Smooth move, Rias, you're such an idiot. You're not. Just made a mistake. Naruto said. Rias winced. Removing her hands, she took a deep breath before she stood up and left the room. Walking down the halls, she saw that the man she had just angered was sitting on the grass outside the window. Once she made it to where he was, she made sure to stand a few feet behind him. Naruto-san, I never meant. Why don't you take a seat? He asked as he patted the ground next to him. Huh? What's with you being so calm all of a sudden? Everyone, even Naruto, shrugged, though Surziches still glared at Naruto as he did. She blinked in slight surprise at the request. But, she didn't want to waste the chance to patch things up between them, so she took his offer and sat down next to him. Silently, the two sat with Naruto's soft breathing and some birds being the only noise. It was she who caved first. I never meant to upset you when I showed you that book. I only wanted to see if you were Menma. She turned to him and saw that his eyes were still closed while hers held shame. It was wrong of me to just assume that you were someone else when you are your own person. I'm sorry, Naruto. I really am. Rias told Naruto. He was silent for a few more moments before he finally asked, "You know something?" She saw him open his eyes and, to her surprise, give a small smile. "You don't know about me personally, but you might know enough for this to work." "For what to work?" she asked. "The friendship," he answered, simply, making her look to him in shock. "I had friends back in my world, but they didn't really know me other than what they saw on the outside. They didn't know what I feared, what I loved, and what I had really experienced. And now, I meet a devil who read a story that was so much like my life that it could almost count as being with me throughout it." "But didn't you just say?" "But it isn't your life," reminded Rias. "You said that yourself." "It's close, though," he relented before he rubbed his head. "I may have overreacted back there since I thought you only saw me as some character and not myself." He turned to her and continued, "I can see in your eyes that you hate that too. Not having an identity other than what you were born with. I'm guessing you were only known as the heiress, right?" She slowly nodded. "It was frustrating, wasn't it?" "You can't begin to imagine," Rias muttered. She nodded again, looking down as she recalled her past. "Yes. I hated it and I left home for it. Here, I'm just known as Rias and it makes me happy." She then looked back at him and he saw the epiphany in her eyes. "I realize now I was doing the same thing that I hated to you." Rias felt her jaw drop. Her other had actually made that mistake. No wonder Naruto's other was so upset by it. She understood perfectly why that would upset him. Surzich's calmed down. So he was apologizing and Naruto and his sister were making up. "Good. Very good. And I forgive you for that," he stated with a warm smile. "Just don't assume anything about me anymore, okay?" "Alright," she replied with a smile in return before she stuck out her hand. "How about we start over? I'm Rias Gremory. Nice to meet you." His smile grew into a grin and he shook her hand. "Naruto Uzumaki. So, why don't we talk about Mr. Personality?" The black cat walked through the sidewalks and alleyways of the city of Kuo. It sniffed around and avoided the many humans that walked the busy streets when in reality it was using a different method of searching. One of its ears twitched as well as its tail before the cat smiled in a way that was too human-like. "Me again, huh?" Kuroka said, pausing in her reading again. "And you thought," Kuroka as she leapt up to a building rooftop and gazed towards the mountains with her gleaming amber orbs. "Wow. Their chakra levels are much stronger than I thought." "No kidding." Kuroka said, agreeing with her other self, eyeing Naruto. Sheesh. What the hell had that much chakra in it? He was like a son of chakra for heck's sake. Not that she found anything wrong with that, quite the opposite, actually. "And is that Senjutsu?" "Yes it is." Naruto said. The Nekomata kept her smile at that. For too long she had believed herself unable to find anyone else who would be able to use the infamous natural energy known as Senjutsu. "Ah, you just weren't looking in the right places, besides if they channel natural energy through their bodies, they'll be hard to find," Naruto said, making the black cat smile at him. So, sensing another that could was beyond exciting to her. "True," Kuroka said. Focusing her demonic energy into her cat limbs, she disappeared in a blur in search of the source. "I can't wait to see who you are. I hope you're a cute one, Naya." Naruto blushed and Hinata glared. "Fiba. Akamaru. Attack." The Hyuga heiress ordered the canine duo. "You do know they can't, right, Naya?" Kuroka said gleefully, then eyed Naruto, "And about that other Mii's comment, yes, you're very cute." Naruto gulped and backed away from the catwoman. "Kuroka just read." Kaneko said. The black cat nodded to her sister and she picked up the book again. "So, he's from a family that has fire-based powers and can recover from intensive attacks easily. Kinda arrogant to be named after the bird of legend, don't you think?" Naruto sighed. Back to his viewpoint, eh? Thank goodness. Kuroka pouted. Ravel, however, scowled at the jab at her family. They weren't all like Riser, damn it. "Not the point," deadpanned Rias, though she couldn't help the smirk at his comment. "Understandable." Rias said, nodding along with her other's amusement. "Do you think you can take him?" "As much as I hate to admit it, I won't be able to by myself." "Do you think I'd back down from this?" "Come on, I took on people who were practically demigods." "True." The leaf ninjas all said. "This guy will be easy. But I'd like to see." Yudo said, grinning. "I'm glad you're so confident, but what about the rest of us? I was hoping you could help us out." "Well, there's an issue," Issei said. The blonde cupped his chin and thawed at the request. "Well, I think I could help. But I'm not much of a teacher, to be honest. At most, I could point out some things that they could use to help." "That's fine. That's good enough," assured Rias with a smile. "Just having you here helps more than you think." Hinata glared at Rias again. "You're assuming again," chided Naruto playfully, making her smack his arm lightly. "You know what I mean." He laughed at the pout she had on her face, waving her off with one hand. "Yay, I know. Don't worry. We'll take down that bastard and end that marriage contract, Red-chan. Count on it. Rias smiled at Naruto. She liked how cheerful and confident he was. It was hard not to feel that everything would be fine around him. She smiled at his words, feeling her own confidence raising from them. Okay, I'll go get the others and bring them out here. We'll go over training when we're all here. Got it, replied Naruto as Rias went inside. Once she was out of earshot, he went over to a tree and looked up, spotting a black cat on one of its branches. You know, you're pretty lucky that Red-chan can't really sense chakra like I can. Hinata groaned. No. She glared at Kuroka, wishing she could kill the Nekomata. I am lucky, Naya. Replied the feline with a grin. I get you all to myself for a moment. Score. Kuroka said, grinning. And what exactly did you want with me? Straight to the point ain't no fun, but then again, you're busy. Kuroka said with a shrug. Ah, of course. I'm Kuroka, Naya. Nice to meet you. Likewise, and I'm Naruto Uzumaki, replied the blonde with a smile. So, I thought that chakra was a rare energy in this world. Oh, it is. But you see, we Nekomata can use it along with a few other neat things. Aren't we great? She asked in a proud tone, though Naruto noted that it wasn't arrogant. Work hard to master it. We earn the right to be proud unlike that Sasuke guy. Kuroka said. Will you stop pausing in your reading to make comments? Zenobia said, frowning. That is pretty cool. But you never really answered what you wanted with me, Kuroka. True, but I'll wait on that. You're pretty busy at the moment, Naya. Thank you for the consideration. Naruto said, making the Catwoman smile at him with a nod. She stood up on her paws and jumped down from the tree, landing next to him. Do me a favor though. Don't tell anyone I was here. Why? Are you some kind of criminal? Every one of the Leaf Ninja narrowed their eyes at Kuroka at that. Well, I am in the eyes of many devils. But I only did what needed to be done for my sister. She looked up at him with pleading in her feline eyes. Please, just keep this quiet. Especially from her. She feels like that little white-haired girl that's with Rias, commented Kurama. No doubt she's this Kuroka's sister. I see. I thought I felt something familiar from her. He nodded to the black cat with a small smile. I won't say anything. Promise. Also, I'll keep an eye on your sister if you want. Kuroka bowed her head deeply to Naruto, thank you. Thank you for that. Please, urged Kuroka, making him nod again. Thank you. Now, I'll come find you sometime tonight and talk to you. I'm not your enemy, Uzumaki-kun. Trust me, Naya. Odd thing for a criminal to say. Sakura said. Hey. You don't know what happened. Don't you dare judge me. Besides, he's going out of his way to look after my family for me. Why should I give him a reason to call me an enemy? Kuroka snapped, glaring. Sakura bit her lip, ashamed. That was honestly a fair thing to say. Huffing, Kuroka resumed reading. With that, she leapt off into the foliage of the surrounding woodlands. And just in time, for Rias was returning with her friends so that Naruto could oversee their training. The Kendo was known for two things by her friends. Her flirtatious antics and her sadism. Yeah. No kidding, the lightning powers don't help with the second one. Issei said. The Kendo blushed and looked away. It was something she had no issue with at all, since she loved to tease others and make them uncomfortable. Guilty. Akeno said shamelessly. But what many didn't know was that this was mainly just an act. Akeno winced. And to her surprise, so did Naruto. In truth, Akeno Himejima was a very fragile girl. Her past heritage was a sore subject for her, and her past before she was taken in by the Gremory house was something that still brought her close to tears. But she didn't let anyone in because they could prove to let her down just as he did. Naruto glared at his friends, daring them to say anything to Akeno. As Izal winced, he knew who the he in question actually was. Her antics were just an emotional mask, one that Naruto easily saw through as he saw how she interacted with her friends. He knew about emotional masks since he had worn one himself for some time. Naruto cringed at that. He started out as a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice that was used to hold and contain a Biju. Hiding the pain he felt was something he needed to do in order to get by as a child. Not a word, Naruto growled at everyone present, his body shaking. So, in order to try and get to the root of her issue, he had left clones with the others while he personally went with the queen. Alright Akeno, let's see what you can do. I'll be sure to impress you, sensei, she said, adding a sultry undertone to the title she gave him. Hinata took a deep breath. Akeno didn't mean any harm, she was just teasing. The Hyuga fought to keep that fact in mind. I'm a queen piece, but I suppose you could say that I'm more of a balanced bishop. I prefer to utilize my magic in a fight, leaning more towards lightning, but I can still fight without it to a degree. Okay, show me your magic. She nodded before she summoned forth her Maiko outfit and began to rain down bolts of electricity on a tree a few yards ahead of her. Naruto and Kurama watched how she used it, but the blonde also made sure to see the girl's expression as she used her magic. Why would he? Lee asked, confused. To his concern, she seemed to be pouring negative emotions into it, as seen by the pent-up anger and sorrow in her eyes. Most wouldn't look at her eyes when she attacked, being more focused on the lightning that was about to fry them. Duh. Inuzuka said. It was definitely a red flag to him. Bakeno squirmed in her seat. Alright, that's enough, he said, and she complied after one last bolt before quickly schooling her features. For starters, you're skilled with your magic, and I don't think we really need to work on it. Thank you, she replied with a smile. However, your source for your magic is concerning. She barely stopped herself from flinching at his statement. What do you mean? The source for all magic is our own reserves. Bakeno, unlike her counterpart, did flinch at that. So did Azazel. True. But that's not what I meant, and you know it. He gave her a serious look that made her avert her gaze. Sighing, he took a seat on the grass and waved for her to do the same. Bakeno, you're pouring a lot of anger and sadness into your attack. It may give you focus, but it could seriously hamper you. What do you know? She retorted, but her tone was much softer than she normally used. I bet you don't have anything you hate. Not true, he countered. There are plenty of things I hate. However, I don't use my hatred because I've seen what it does to people. Way too true. Naruto muttered. Reaching over, he thumbed her cheek and wiped away a stray tear that was rolling down. Her eyes were wide as she looked at him, seeing him give her a small smile of encouragement. Don't let your anger control you, Akeno. It isn't worth it. What do you mean? She asked, looking confused. Sighing, he pulled his hand back much to her disappointment and said, I once had a friend named Sasuke who gave in to his hatred. In the end, he threw away every chance he had at happiness. He even killed the man he believed to be the source of his hatred. But it wasn't enough for him, and his anger at me for trying to stop him was what drove him into sending me away. Bastard. Tenten hissed, getting odd looks. She looked to him in surprise while he looked down sadly. It showed in his expression that he was still hurting from the betrayal, and she couldn't help but wonder if she would one day hurt her friends in her anger. Bakeno looked horrified at the sheer idea of that. She hugged her knees and looked to him sadly. What should I do? He scooted over to her side, sitting down right next to her so that she could lean on him. Talk to me. Why are you angry, Akeno? Taking a breath, the troubled young woman began her story. She had been born as the only child of Shuri Himejima, a well-known Shinto priestess, and Barakiel, a fallen angel and one of the leaders of the fallen angel organization, Grigori. Akeno winced at the mention of her father's name. As a child, Akeno was close to her mother, and she fell into despair when she witnessed her mother's death. Her anger had stemmed from blaming her father for not being able to protect her mother. After the death of Shuri, she stayed with her mother's relatives before being kicked out due to her fallen blood. It wasn't until she was 10 that she traveled to Japan and spent a year and a half purifying evil spirits like her mother. One day though, she had saved a human that was in a contract with the Gremory house. Something she had no knowledge of until it was too late. After that, I went into hiding because I thought that they would kill me, she continued. Because you were half fallen? Asked the blonde, making her nod. Bakeno shuddered and tried to curl up into a ball. She hated this memory. Yes, but then the Himejima clan found me and tried to kill me because of my cursed blood. She was already crying as she continued, and Naruto wrapped his arm around her for comfort. She leaned into him more as she continued through her tears. My granduncle was going to finish me off before Rias found me. Since then, I've been serving the Gremory house, and I doubt I could ever repay them for saving my life. But you still hate your father, finished Naruto, which she nodded to. You know, for a time I hated my father too. You see, he was the one who gave me what was once a burden, and I ended up being seen as a living symbol of what had once nearly brought my home to ruin. Not my fault, you know, grumbled Kurama. What does that mean? Everyone from the Leaf Village shouted. Naruto shifted uncomfortably. He had heard about that masked guy being who caused the fox to rampage from that echo of his dad in his mindscape, but he wasn't ready to share it just yet. Boy. I'm trying to comfort someone here. He mentally yelled back. True. Don't spoil the moment. Asia said. Before refocusing on Akeno. He could have done something else, but he made me into a living sacrifice for our home. I won't lie. When I had finally met him, I punched him. What? I was pissed. Naruto defended, seeing the looks he was given. Why didn't you do more? Asked Akeno. Because I had finally understood the position he was in. He was a leader of our village, and he couldn't have asked for another family to sacrifice their own if he wasn't willing to do the same. He squeezed her shoulder gently as he continued, I'm not saying that you need to forgive your father right away. All I'm saying is don't put all of your anger on him until you know the whole story. But what if I don't like what the whole story is? She asked, slightly anxious. She saw him give her a sad smile as he answered, I honestly can't answer that. All I can tell you is that if you hold on to this anger you feel, you'll destroy yourself. I've seen far too many people do it already. I don't want to see another person give in to their hatred and pain. Azazel leaned in, his eyes wide. Silently rooting for Naruto as he helped his friend's daughter. She was silent as she leaned against him. The whole time, her thoughts were running a mile a minute and she began to see what it was that the blonde human next to her was saying. It would be hard, but she would try to keep from falling into her hatred. How do I start? She asked, turning to him just in time to see him smile brightly at her, causing her cheeks to flush warmly. Standing her up and wiping her remaining tears, he said, for starters, focus on that positive feeling you had when you were with your mother. You know what that is? She shook her head and he smiled a bit softer. It's love. Shuri loved you, Akeno, and you loved her more than anything. Focus on that. Focus on that feeling of love and try your lightning again. Akeno hitched her breath at that. Focus on her feelings for her mother and channel that through her powers. He then turned her around slowly, squeezing her shoulders gently as he had her face another tree. She stared down at the tree and took a few breaths, each one bringing up another happy memory she had with her mother and making her smile brighter. After one last breath, she was smiling truer than she had ever done before and, with a happy tear rolling down her cheek, she summoned forth her lightning. Naruto couldn't contain the grin on his face as he saw her magic strike down like a true flash of the heavens. Seeing the next sentence, Kuroko went silent. Then she took a shaky breath and started reading again. Kaneko was not one for words, and everyone who knew her was aware of that fact. It was because of her silent nature that many people couldn't get a read on her. So, it was no surprise that the clone Naruto had left with the small girl was confused at how wary she was of him. Kaneko?" he asked. "Everything okay?" "You're full of chakra," she answered after a small pause. "Chakra's dangerous." At that, the leaf ninjas all looked upset. "Well, yay, I suppose it can be dangerous. But that's only when it's used in the wrong ways." He saw that she was staying quiet inside. "Look Kaneko, you have nothing to fear about the chakra inside you. It's a part of you, so you control what it does." The shinobi all looked at Naruto and nodded at his other's words, as did Kuroka. "But it made her crazy," retorted the young Miko. "You mean your sister, don't you?" he asked, making her widen her eyes in shock. "I don't know the story about her, but I do know that whatever she did couldn't have been done without a reason." Kaneko hitched her breath and gulped, her body shaking. "Here," Afa said, holding out a hand, "I'll read, Kuroka." Nodding, the feline female handed the book to the Dragon Queen of the Void, who started reading. She looked away and clenched her fists, making him frown sadly. She left killed her king and ran away. Devil said it was because of her using chakra and senjutsu. What? Oh, that is bullshit. Naruto snapped. Senjutsu? Asked Naruto. Why would she go crazy if she was using natural energy? He saw her shuffle her feet nervously. I tried it once. It was scary. She hugged herself and continued, so much negativity. It doesn't feel like that. Naruto snapped, glaring at the book. Negativity? Kaneko, natural energy isn't full of negativity. It's supposed to be a positive energy that synchronizes with your own chakra. He stepped up to her and she looked up to see him looking into her eyes with concern. Were you angry when you were trying it? Naruto and Kuroka's eyes widened. Was she of course. She slowly nodded, unable to look away. Yes, I was mad at her for leaving. I had no choice. Kuroka wild, you think I wanted to leave my sister? Then that's why you felt that negativity. Chakra is affected by your emotional state, Kaneko. In your anger, when you tried to use senjutsu it latched onto that anger and intensified it. That's why it scared you so much. Kaneko blinked at that. So that's what it was. She was sensing her own anger. Sheesh. Talk about something that would make her head spin. She finally looked away, turning fully so that her back was to him. He saw that she was shaking slightly and he stepped up before gently grabbing her shoulder. You won't go crazy, Kaneko. So long as you control your emotions, you'll be just fine. I promise. I've used chakra my entire life. It's a part of me to the point where I depend on it to live. The only times I lost control were when I was feeling extreme anger. She turned her head to see him smiling at her. If you need me to, I'll stop you from losing control. You have my word. Kuroka shook all over and locked eyes with Naruto, her own starting to water. Naruto he was. Her yellow eyes stared dead into his blue ones, seeing nothing but sincerity in them. Slowly, she nodded as she said, okay. But I want to see your chakra first. He blinked at the request before smiling. Alright. Stand back for a moment. Once she was back far enough, he mentally called out, Kurama. Yay, I know. We'll stick to the chakra mode for now. The blonde clone nodded before his form became enshrouded in a flickering gold energy. Wait, golden? Sakura said, that's not right, it's red, I've seen it. Naruto shrugged. Maybe I haven't gotten to the level where it's like that yet. he said. That had black markings on his torso. His eyes were a deep orange with slit pupils, and 2 bangs shot upward in the form of horns. Okay, I know I haven't gotten to that level yet, Naruto said, his eyes wide. He flexed his implanted arm when he saw that the sun mark that Hagoromo gave him was visible and in a bright orange color on his palm. Wait, isn't Hagoromo the guy who gave Sasuke? Naruto winced as he felt the fox getting worked up again. Hanako was looking on in shock at how warm and protective his chakra was. It made her natural senses go into overdrive and she had to fight herself to stop from releasing her Nico features. Don't fight it, little sister. Trust me, this is how chakra is supposed to feel. Kuroka muttered. He grinned at her and asked, so, you ready to try out your own chakra? She nodded slowly as she still fought to keep herself calm. Yes, I am. Kuroka and Kaneko both gulped. Good. He replied with a smile as he dropped his chakra mode. He then had them sit across from one another and instructed, now, let's start with getting a feel for your chakra first. I want you to relax and sense it inside of you. Nodding, she closed her eyes and took her first real steps in chakra control. Naruto sat on the roof of the manor after he had finished eating dinner with the devils. He had to admit that they were impressive. Though that Issei guy reminded him way too much of Jiraiya. Naruto moaned. He was going to have to pay for this because of someone else. Damn it. He even got motivated in the same way his old master did. Using Naruto-chan to ask nicely. Who? I refused to answer. But needless to say, I had to spend a lot of my training trying to get Jiraiya to actually focus on training me by having to constantly resort to inventing jutsu that were more and more lewd and perverted since it was the only way to get his attention. Not my fault. Naruto muttered. Sakura scowled, damn it. Now she had to pay up on that bet with Tsunade. She'd bet that Naruto would have to constantly resort to inventing jutsu that were more and more lewd and perverted if he wanted Jiraiya to give a damn about actually teaching him. But, well, he was a shameless pervert. Understatement. Everyone in Rias' peerage said in unison, making Issei gulp as the Kunoichi all glared and rubbed their knuckles. He was dead. He still had an impressive dedication to Rias. At first he thought he was acting out of perverseness, but the young man surprised him. I won't do nothing when a friend of mine needs my help. That's not me and it never will be. If you were that way all the time rather than a pervert, you'd have girls fighting over you all the time, you do know that, right? Naruto asked. Issei whimpered. Damn. His own character was standing in his goal of becoming harem king. Castrate him now. He smirked as he remembered Issei's words, being reminded of how he was for his own friends. Next was Asia, and she reminded him so much of Hinata that they could probably be the same person. She was a gentle soul who despised seeing anyone fight and she would rather see a peaceful solution than take up arms. Hinata smiled at the former nun. But, whereas Hinata fought and was a skilled kunoichi, Asia was a healer. She was afraid of hurting anyone else, even if they were her enemy, and it made him smile. So, he had her focus on aerobics and evasion. With the aerobics, she would be able to weave around attacks and wear down an attacker enough for someone else to come in and finish them off. However, that didn't mean he was leaving her defenseless in case she was on her own. While different in many ways, devil magic was slightly similar to chakra and he was able to teach her how to use her own magic to push someone back. In a way, it was like a much weaker version of the almighty push that a Rinnegan user was capable of using. The Leaf Ninjas, recalling pain, shuddered at the mention of the Rinnegan. And was able to help her defend from both enemies and attacks. Rias smiled. He was even helping with Asia and finding her ways that wouldn't hurt someone but still be used to defend herself. Good guy. The Keno and Kaneko were both already on a path that was beneficial to them and he believed they just needed to keep at it for the rest of the 2 weeks. Kiba was pretty skilled with his sacred gear and night speed, but Naruto told him to work on his reaction time and reflexes. If he could act as fast as he could move, then he'd be that much more a force to be reckoned with. Rias Kiba looked interested at that. Nice night isn't it, Naya? Asked a familiar voice, making him turn to see Kuroka sitting on the ledge next to him. Yay, it is, he answered, turning back to the moon. Your reputation has done a number on your sister, you know. She's afraid of using chakra and senjutsu. Kuroka winced at that. I figured, she replied as she looked up with him. I saw how you helped her, by the way. Thank you for that. Kuroka bowed her head. Simply saying thank you. No. Those 2 words were nowhere near enough. I was afraid that she would deny who she was for the rest of her life. Kuroka flinched at that. She was frightened by that, all right. You'll have to talk to her at some point. She needs to know the truth from you and not from some rumors. I know, Kuroka muttered softly. I know, sighed the Nico. I'm still waiting for the right time. That time won't exist if you keep stalling. He then turned to her and offered, if you want, I could help you talk to her after this rating game. I think she should focus on this for the moment. Hiroka jerked up and stared at Naruto. He was willing to help her reconnect with the last family she had left. But he barely knew her. "You do that?" she asked in surprise. "But why help someone you just met?" He laughed at her question, holding his side as he did so. "You'd be surprised how many times I've actually done that. You are far from the first person I helped the same day I met them." She blinked at his response before she slowly smiled. His chakra felt so warm and bright. It was like the sun she loved to bathe in so much, or a nice warm fire she could curl up next to. Hiroka and Kaneko nodded. His energy did feel that way. But then a thought came to her as she remembered something. "You mentioned Senjutsu. Can you use it?" "Well, I am a trained sage," Naruto said. "Yay, I can use it. I was trained by toads to harness the natural energy of the world." "Toads?" asked Kuroka with a sweat drop. "You're kidding, right?" Kuroka asked, to which the whiskered blonde shook his head. "Long story, but the point is that I can use it," stated the blonde. "Why do you ask?" "Can you show me how you do it? We Nekomata use the nature around us to enhance our attacks." "How do you use it?" Kuroka perked up at the question of her other self. This she was interested in hearing. The Uzumaki didn't answer her. Instead, he took a breath and calmed himself. To her surprise, his energy faded and began to mix itself with the natural energy surrounding her. He was practically invisible to her even though he was sitting right next to her. "What are you, blind?" Sakura asked. Kuroka hissed like an angry alley cat. "Seeing as you're not a sensory type, you wouldn't get it." When he opened his eyes, she saw that they were so similar to the animals he said taught him. They also had orange markings around the eyelids, giving them even more of a toad-like appearance. "This is my sage mode. I take in the natural energy and mix it with my own natural chakra coils. It enhances both my body and my attacks, while also giving me a much more heightened sense of awareness. I can feel the energy signatures of everyone within a few miles of my position." "Impressive," Kuroka said. "Wow," she breathed out, feeling the same thing Kaneko was before. However, instead of fighting the feeling, Kuroka embraced it and let the feeling wash over her. While this happened, she was unaware that she had lost focus on her transformation and returned to her natural form. Kuroka blushed. But in defense of her the feel of Naruto's energy mixed in with Senjutsu would feel wonderful. She wondered if she could get him to do that here. The blonde watching her couldn't help but blush at the beautiful woman now standing before him with her golden eyes clouded by the feeling of Senjutsu. He cut off the flow and released his sage mode, making her blink back into focus before pouting at him cutely. "Moo, did you have to stop? It felt so good, and why?" "I bet," Kuroka pouted. He blushed again at how her wording could be taken as he rubbed his head sheepishly. "Yay, sorry about that. I didn't know it would affect you so much." "Why apologize for a good thing?" Kuroka said to Naruto. She smirked at him before striding over and draping her arms over and around his shoulders, enjoying the flustered blush on his face and the feel of his muscles pressing against her generous assets. Hinata had to have most of the Leaf 11 hold her down at that. "Oh, I didn't mind at all, Naruto-kun," she commented, purring out his name as her twin tails swayed happily. "Your energy from both before and now are so addicting, though." She then leaned in and whispered into his ear, "You're intoxicating." Naruto blushed and scooted back, not liking the way Kuroka was suddenly eyeing him. His blush was as red as his mother's hair as he stood straight, too tense to do anything else. Oh, he stuttered out. Thanks, I guess." Kuroka grinned deviously. A Senjutsu user with his chakra levels, a real cutie and fun to tease. Oh, she couldn't have hit a better jackpot. She giggled at his flustered state before she pulled away, mentally berating herself for doing so. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun. I said that I wasn't your enemy, and I meant it. Besides, I owe you some answers, right?" He nodded as his blush calmed down. "Well, for starters, I'm a criminal for killing my king that I was a bishop for. He made a threat to use my sister against me when she was just a child, and I acted first before I left her with the Gremory house." Kuroka winced at that. "And the rumors about you going crazy?" asked the blonde. "Those were his surviving peerage members that saw that I was using chakra and Senjutsu to kill him. They spread the rumors to have me branded as a criminal and seen as crazy." "I see. Well, I can tell right now that you're anything but crazy. Your chakra is very calm and you seem to be more intelligent than most." "Thank you, Naya," Kuroka said. "Thank you, Naya," she replied with a feline grin that hid the small blush she had from his praise. "No need to repeat yourself," Akeno teased. "It's nice to have someone believe me about this. Now, the reason I'm here is to observe you for my boss." "Observe me?" he asked with a chuckle. "Don't you need to be more discreet about observations?" She pouted at him. "Kinda hard when the one you're observing can sense others just as easily as you can." "True," he relented. "So, who's your boss?" "Me." Alpha said. She's known as the Infinity Dragon Goddess, Office. She doesn't look like much to most people, but trust me when I say that she's strong. Very strong. She has devils, fallen, some angels, and even some humans who are descended from legends on her side. All I know is that she wants to take down some other dragon who kicked her out of her own home. Office paused in her reading and scowled. Great Red, she muttered darkly. I see. Well, if she's trying to recruit me, I'd prefer to talk to her personally. No offense to you, but I'd like to hear more from her about all of this. Office nodded at that. He wanted to hear things straight from her before choosing if he wanted to join her. She could respect that. None taken. And I could tell her that you want to meet. She won't bring you in without some kind of compensation though, just so you know, Naya. Of course I wouldn't, Office said with a firm nod. He nodded, mentally wondering if this Office could be able to send him back home. I could. Very easily at that. Office said, causing Hinata to smile at the female dragon in human form. Well, I don't mind you watching me and dropping in from time to time. It's nice having another friend to talk to. Friend? She asked as she tilted her head. Do you consider me a friend? Well, a potential one anyway. We have a bit in common and I'd like to swap more stories with you. This world's interesting and I'd like to learn more about it. Hiroka smiled. She'd like that. And it would give her a reason to be where she could keep an eye on her little sister more. Win-win for her. She smiled at his words and nodded. Sure thing, Naya. I'll be sure to stop by every now and then. For now though, I'll go talk to Office-sama. She then boldly kissed his whiskered cheek, making him flush brightly while she grinned. See you around, Naruto-kun. You bitch. Hinata screamed and lunged at Kuroka, who leaped over her and landed in Naruto's lap, holding his head to her bosom. Deal with it. How's it my fault he's a great guy? Hinata got ready to attack again, but Office spoke up. If you don't relax, I won't send him back. Hinata froze, horrified at that, then sat down, assuming the fetal position. I'll be good. She squeaked. With that, she left Naruto alone on the rooftop rubbing his cheek with his blush still in place. Man, what a woman. You said it, kid. Agreed Kurama with a fanged grin. Everyone looked at Naruto shocked while Kuroka beamed, overjoyed. Rias laid back on her bed, completely bare for anyone to see if they entered her room. There were a few stifled nosebleeds at that. Her head rested over her hands as she looked up at the ceiling. Her thoughts revolved around the whiskered blonde who had agreed to help her and who had shown her what assumptions could lead to. Issy growled at that. She smiled at how much he had already done to help her peerage prepare, and it had only been one afternoon of training. Riser wasn't going to know what hit him when the game started. Okay, that I wanna see. Azazel laughed. But, a part of her wondered what would happen after the game ended. Would Naruto leave? Would her brother succeed in being able to send him back to his homeworld? Such thoughts made her frown. She had been begging for some kind of hero to help her, and when one comes he could leave just as easily as he arrived. She wanted to get to know him more, to deepen the friendship that he had offered her. And not only that, but a part of her wanted to bond with him on a deeper level than friendship. He was like her in many ways, and she felt some kind of kinship in the blonde ninja. She blushed as she realized that she was already attracted to Naruto Uzumaki. As Naruto and Rias blushed, Hinata snarled at that. But it was hard not to be. He was just so charming in his own way, and he was so confident in anything he set his mind to. She couldn't help but want to be beside him through his newest strides. The Hyga girl had to begrudgingly nod in agreement to the female devil's words at that. After all, she was the same way. Giggling softly to herself, she slowly fell asleep and began to dream of the blonde hero. Akeno hugged a pillow as she smiled and laid on her own bed. Unknowingly, like her king, the queen of Ria's peerage was thinking about the Uzumaki. She giggled as she remembered how he had comforted her and made her remember the good times she had with her mother. Azazel smiled. This was good. This was just what Akeno needed. Her smile softened as she recalled the feeling of warmth when she focused on the love she had for her mother instead of the anger against her father. Akeno smiled at that, her eyes starting to moisten. In the span of just one afternoon, this strange and kind man had done more for her than anyone except the Gremory house and Rias. She hugged her pillow tighter and smiled brighter at the smile he always seemed to have. It eased her and made her feel like she could do anything she set her mind to. Closing her eyes, she snuggled into the pillow, imagining herself in his arms once again and blushing in her sleep. Hinata and Issei both growled at that. Naruto-kun, she whispered as she slept. 2 weeks had come and gone, and Naruto spent each day making sure Rias and her peerage were ready for anything. He trained them into the ground in such a way that Guy and Lee would have been proud to join in. Niji and Tenten winced. Knowing what that would be like, while Lee looked disappointed that he hadn't gotten such intense training. He had them work on team tactics, helped them hone their individual talents, and even helped Rias learn how to think on the fly. The last couple of days were spent in mock battles with his clones acting as enemy pieces, and the devils showed just how much they had learned from him. He couldn't help but grin at their progress. He may not have been much of a teacher, in his own opinion, but he liked to think that he had prepared them enough for the raiding game. "No doubt you have," Rias assured Naruto with a smile. One thing he had noticed though was how much Rias and Akeno seemed to try in getting his attention. He would spend time with them of course, but it was new to him to be so sought out by two beautiful women. Hinata nearly fainted at that. Issei cracked his knuckles. Not only that, but Kuroka whenever she visited had taken to laying in his lap in both her cat form and her natural form. As a cat, she enjoyed the way his fingers brushed through her fur and found the sweet spots on her back and behind her ears. Kuroka moaned. That had to feel good. Damn her other, lucky. However, while she was in her natural form, she loved how his chakra would warm her body and send pleasant tingles through her. No fair that she gets that. Kuroka pouted. He blushed as he remembered how the Nekomata woman would always leave him flustered with a kiss on the cheek every time she left. Though, he couldn't help but think he saw something in her eyes when she had left him last night. Hinata clawed at her ears, she couldn't bear to hear this. Tenten winced. Lucky bastard. Kiba Inyazuka muttered, glaring at Naruto. "Naruto-kun?" asked Rias. "You okay?" "Huh?" he asked back, being broken from his thoughts. "Oh, yay, I'm okay. So, are we ready to start?" "Almost. Nai-sama is getting ready to have Graphius start the game. You have your party favors, right?" The shinobi all grinned. Knowing what that could mean. He grinned at her as he patted a scroll that was tied to his belt. "I wouldn't leave without them, Red-chan." She blushed at the name, having come to enjoy it since it felt personal to her. Akeno pouted a little at her friend's blush before she stepped up to the blonde. "Any words of encouragement for us, Naruto-kun?" she asked as she stood close to him. "Nothing much other than to watch your back and don't do anything reckless." He then grinned and thumbed his chest as he added, "That's my job." Naruto's friends laughed at how true that was. Akeno giggled at his last comment and smiled at the blonde warmly, making Ria's brow twitch. The two then locked eyes and Akeno smirked at her while an unseen spark locked between their eyes. Silently, they both agreed to one thing. They weren't backing off so easily. "All peerage members get ready. The raiding game between Riser Phoenix-sama and Rias Gremory-sama is about to begin," announced Graphia from a microphone. "That's our cue," Rias said, breaking her gaze from Akeno to address her friends. "This is it, everyone. No matter what happens, I can't thank you enough for standing with me for this." They all smiled and nodded to her, while Naruto grinned with a thumbs up. She smiled back at them as they were all blinded by a brilliant flash of light. When it died down, they found themselves in the familiar side of the occult research clubroom. The lone human of the group, having absorbed the temporary peace before the game started, grinned as he looked outside and saw the detail in the battlefield he would be fighting in with these devils. "It's showtime." Naruto grinned. "Let the games begin," he exclaimed before he grabbed his scroll and opened it, covering him and the others in a plume of smoke. "That's the end of the chapter, think that's enough for now?" Office asked. Chapter 3. "Here. Let me read." Irina immediately took the book. Ravel grumbled under her breath, she wanted to read it too. As a child she was told of many stories of heroes of old and heroes from the fairy tales. Even if this was going to make her, her family, and the one stuck as Riser's evil peace peerage look bad after all, her brother was just that much of a creep. "You're surprisingly eager to read it, Irina," Zenobia said to her friend, while Irina waved her hand dismissively. "Of course. And it's not like you weren't interested in it," Irina shot back. "You've got a point," Zenobia muttered, red-faced and looking away, as the reincarnated angel coughed into her hand before she started reading. "Alright, let's see here," muttered Naruto as the contents of his now empty scroll rested on the desk Rias sat at. The others looked at what he had and were a bit confused at the contents revealed. Everyone looked up, interested to see what the blonde's party favors were. There was a stack of paper tags, all of them with a strange archaic symbol on them. The ninja all looked worried, who knew which seals were which? The effects could be anything. The devils all watched as he separated the tags into different groups before he smiled and nodded to himself. "Okay, I think we're good," he declared before he pocketed 4 of the tags, leaving 6 remaining. "The rest are for you all. Each of you takes one and keeps it in case of an emergency." Taking one, Asia asked, "But how do these tags work, Naruto-san?" "You put your devil power into it and make sure that the symbol is facing your opponent. Inside each one is a technique of mine that will be launched from the tag. Be careful though since the backlash of the technique can push you back pretty badly." Everyone wondered what Naruto would be crazy enough to seal in those tags. The others nodded before Rias brought their attention to a small map. "Alright, we're in our clubroom while Riser is in the main school building. Between us and them is the gymnasium, and that also acts as the border between our respective sides." So, most of the fighting will be in there since he has 8 pawns, deduced Naruto. The forests surrounding the school grounds are also fair game by the looks of it. Middle of the board is usually where confrontations start. Shikamaru noted. But I'll lead Issei-kun and Kaneko-chan to the gym to take care of the pawns, suggested Kiba. No, it's too many of our own members, immediately shot down the retreated king. Issei will go with you, Kiba, while Kaneko goes around. Okeno will go the other way while Naruto and I head for Riser. Rias' peerage grimaced, recalling how well that strategy had worked out. They hoped that their other selves had better luck. And me, but you? Asked Asia nervously. If I may add some input? Asked Naruto, earning him a nod from Rias to continue. I suggest that Asia goes with Kaneko. With her as a rook, she can take more punishment than others. But it's only so much more. Asia-chan can help make it so that she can keep going and provide magical support. Rias slapped a hand to her forehead, damn it. That was a good idea. Why hadn't she thought of that herself when she faced Riser? Ravel chewed on her bottom lip, she was finding it hard to know who to root for right now and decided it best if she kept her mouth shut most of this chapter. I agree, supported Kaneko with a small nod. Need to be kept in top form so I can keep fighting. Hiroka smiled at the former nun, glad the healer would be there to make sure her sister was kept healthy. She hated seeing Shirin hurt, heck, she wanted nothing to happen to her younger sister and wanted to protect her from everybody, so the healer's presence around Hiramoto was both very welcome and very reassuring to the black cat. Rias thought it over before she slowly nodded. Alright, but Asia needs to be sure to stay out of immediate danger. If we get in trouble, she's important for helping us recover. Well, if the medic's lost, who'll treat the injured? Sakura asked, nodding as she recalled that lesson from Tsunade. The others nodded before they all set out, ready to take on Riser Phoenix and his peerage. Hiroka sat in a beanbag chair in front of a large television that was set to the station broadcasting the rating game between Rias and Riser. She smirked as she watched a footage of Naruto planning with the Gremory girl's peerage, eager to see what he would bring to the game. No kidding. This is gonna be good. Kuroka said. Hiroka, is there a point to having me watch this with you? Asked Office as she stood behind the Nekomato woman. As far as I can tell from watching, this is just another rating game between devils that has your sister in it. There is. I know how you hate your time being wasted, boss. Kuroka said, turning to Office. Office rolled her eyes, not at all that surprised that Kuroka was getting so into this. But BOSS whined Kuroka childishly before pointing to the screen, that blonde man in black and orange was the one you had me look for. He's the one I told you was named Naruto Uzumaki. The short dragon goddess raised a brow slightly before looking back at the screen, taking a closer look at the blonde man named Naruto. Her brows furrowed so faintly that one would be hard-pressed to notice, but her focus was on the human. What she was mainly focused on though were his eyes whenever the camera had them on screen, and what she saw impressed her. Everyone looked interested. What could impress Office? Within those eyes were experience, wisdom, and a drive to accomplish anything the owner set their mind to. For a human to have that much in his gaze and to appear so young-looking was nothing short of impressive and commendable. Sakura snorted. Sure, Naruto was different now in a more positive sense, but wisdom? Naruto? What was Office on? The human-looking dragon raised an eyebrow at the pink-haired medic as if she knew what the Haruno had just thought. Unconsciously though, her right hand reached up towards her chest area and a blue amulet materialized from nothingness just in time for her fingers to wrap around it. Office and the others all looked confused at that. What was the dragon goddess's other doing with that? She didn't have any amulet. Her hand kept a hold on the amulet as she watched the broadcast, and her gaze became more intent as she observed the Uzumaki. Issei and Kiba were having a bit of trouble in the gymnasium due to the unneeded arrival awful of Riser's pawns. The two boys in question winced. No kidding, that was unneeded. Issei took on 2 pairs of twins, while Kiba took on the remainder of the group. Udo gave his friend a look. So while you're fighting only 2 or 4, I have to fight everyone else. Issei shrugged. Sorry, but this is an alternate reality, I have no control whatsoever of what my other dozer thinks. Besides, I'm a pawn, you're a knight. Of course they'd see you as the bigger threat. The knight sighed and nodded. True enough, no point in getting mad at his friend. The first pair of twins were greenette girls that wielded chainsaws as their main weapons. The dragon gauntlet was sturdy enough to hold back the sharp blades and parry them, but the next pair of twins kept him from pressing forward to attack. They were a pair of Nico girls that specialized in hand-to-hand. The only way to tell them apart was by their hair color. Red and blue. They again parried the chainsaw twins' attack before he rolled away from an axe kick by the retreated Nico. Damn it, he mentally cursed while activating his boost. They're too in cinch with each other. Perhaps it'd be best to use that Uzumaki guy's seal tag now, suggested the voice that came with his sacred gear. Briggs speaking up, eh? Wondered when that would happen. Issei said. He did say to use it in emergencies. Yay, but it's a one-time deal, and these are just pawns shot down the pawn. Rather hypocritical of you, considering you're the same rank. Niji said. Issei scowled. A one-time use weapon, and there were at least 16 other, stronger enemies to worry about. Fair point. The Hyuga said. As he noticed Kiba spin right into the guard of all 4 of his opponents. The blonde knight then struck with twin sword strikes, taking down the female pawns before they had a chance to act. Rias. Kiba grinned. Looked like Naruto's training was paying off. He didn't even have his balance breaker, Sword of Betrayer, yet. Oh, he was looking forward to seeing what happened when his other met Valper Galilei. 4 of Phoenix Ama's pawns have been eliminated, spoke Grafia through the broadcasting speakers, while said eliminated pieces faded out of the battlefield. Kiba gave Issei a supportive nod before he rushed out to look for more of the enemy pieces. Damn, he may be a pretty boy, but I'm glad Kiba's on my team, noted the brunette. Udo gave Issei a flat look. Really? A pretty boy? You've got that reputation, don't blame me, man. The pervert said. Before he cartwheeled away from another twin strike from the Nico girls. Okay, time to get serious. He growled out before crying, boost. With his already doubled power doubling once more, he ducked beneath a chainsaw swipe and landed a sharp body blow to the girl who made the swing. The impact made her cough out the wind in her lungs and lose her grip on her weapon. Issei then rose, spun, and struck the girl's head with a fierce backhanded strike that made her drop to the ground, unmoving. Wonder how well Naruto would do as a teacher if he got the pervert to actually kick their butts rather than slobber over them. Kaneko said. Issei yelped a second later as the female ninjas began sharpening their kunai and giving him the evil eye. One even went as far as mouthing dead meat to him and pretended to slit her throat with a kunai. If he wasn't so worried that he was going to die before the end of this chapter, he would have corrected Kaneko. Out of the T&A department, he was a T fan, Volley was the one who liked ass. Nell. Cried Isle, the other chainsaw twin, as she saw her sister get eliminated and removed from play. Bastard. She then screamed as she rushed the dragon-armed teen. Issei gave her a fierce look and then aimed his weaponized left arm at her, remembering something Naruto told him. Issei, everyone has a dormant power within them that will come when its wielder is ready. It isn't just your sacred gear that makes you strong. But advice. A deep voice said suddenly, and everyone but Office jumped. Then Issei looked down at his hand to see the back of it had a glowing green oval there, and Issei sighed, Drag, wonder why you didn't speak up until now, partner. If he still had a body, Issei suspected the dragon might have shrugged, not much of a reason to, seeing as everything before was just build-up. The dragon said. Spirit of a dragon sealed inside that gauntlet he has speaks up from time to time. Office said an explanation to the ninjas, who nodded. The dormant power mused the brunette as he focused harder than he had ever done before, summoning forth a notable level of devil power. The energy built up in his arm and the name came to him as he fired, Dragon Shot. The energy shot forward as a massive blast, with the tip taking on the form of a dragon's head. It roared at Isla as she watched it in shock before it engulfed her and exploded in a fierce burst. Phoenix Ama's 6th pawn has been eliminated. The twin Nico looked at the scorched ground where Isle once stood before looking back to Issei, who was rolling his shoulder with a slight grimace. NNGH definitely not used to that much power, he muttered. Nah, began the redeed. Yes, Lee, asked the brunette. We need to hurry up and take him down before he promotes himself. Everyone gawked at that. Then Issei grinned. Damn, hadn't even promoted himself past being a pawn and he was kicking ass. Oh, hell yeah. Wonder how well Naruto would do against Albion. Drake said thoughtfully. Issei looked hurt and worried at that, hurt because even his partner seemed to like Naruto better, worried because he knew removing a sacred gear killed the current user who had it. Well, wouldn't mind helping get him ready, but if you pick this guy as your partner, it's his place to help you beat this rival of yours, not mine. Naruto said. True. The Red Dragon agreed. Issei sighed and Ria's group all looked relieved. They didn't want their friend to die like that. But can I just say that with everything that's been found out so far, I'd like to say I'm relieved Albion didn't have Uzumaki as a host. Drag said. Issei paled at that. Okay, as tough as Vale was, if Drag was openly pointing out that Naruto would be a more dangerous match partnered with a sacred gear that was the opposite of his own than the strongest White Dragon Emperor was, he was glad Naruto didn't have the divine dividing longiness. Naruto's creativity added onto the power of the divine dividing sacred gear, along with this Kurama guy being in him and his sage training Naruto as the White Dragon Emperor would be scary. What are you saying? Tenten asked. The dragon Issei has within that gauntlet Drag has the ability to double the user's power every 10 seconds, while Drag's rival, Albion, has ability to divide an opponent's strength by half after coming into physical contact with them every 10 seconds and absorb that half power to add to his own. If the added power exceeds the amount that can be safely contained, the excess energy is expelled, which allows the one with that power to always be at their highest potential. Not only that, but the ones partnered with Albion have the power to even shrink the size of objects and living beings around them, even space within dimensions, by constantly having them. Alpha said. So they're opposites and rivals, then. Sai said, feeling strongly reminded of Sasuke and Naruto's own rivalry. Office nodded. Yes, and the idea just now was how dangerous Albion would ever become if he had Naruto as his partner. The ninjas and faction leaders all winced. Okay, scary idea. Do not go there, Choji muttered. Her twin nodded and the duo dropped to all fours and their eyes became more feline. Baring their fangs and new claws, they shot at Issei who readied himself for them. Hey kid, began the voice, making Issei perk up. There's another power you could use, but it drains you of the boosted power you have saved up. Will it hurt? Returned the teen as the Nico girls got closer. A bit, but you'll get used to it. You might want to use it now, finished the voice as it imparted the knowledge of the power to its host. Issei groaned at the sudden wave of new knowledge before he shot his eyes opened and raised his arm skyward. Boosted gear. Explosion. He roared as the jewel on his gauntlet shined brightly and unleashed a massive burst of power. Okay. How is it you consider yourself a bad teacher if you help this much as far as our development? Yudo asked Naruto, who shrugged. Not a lot of experience. Besides, the growth is all you guys, I just helped point out what worked. Trust me, teacher I'm not, but I know that finding the right method makes a difference with teaching someone. Me for instance, I'm a kinesthetic learner, but most of my old teachers did things by paperwork, test scores, and long explanations. Didn't work for a learn by doing type, so I was labeled a dead last in school. Hearing that, everyone nodded. Made sense. The Nico girls were caught completely off guard by the sudden burst and were shot back as twin balls of fire, crashing into the gym wall across from Issei, who was on a bended knee and clutching left shoulder in pain. He was too focused on it to hear Graphia proclaim that Riser's final two pawns were eliminated. Damn it, that hurts. Mentally roared the brunette. You said it would only hurt a bit. I didn't think you'd be unable to handle the strain, explained the voice. Listen, just go find that nun girl and have her heal you up. And keep your guard up, damn it. You're still on the battlefield. Issei groaned in response, staggering to his feet before he began to search for Asia. Kaneko backed away from a hard strike from a ravenette girl dressed in Chinese attire. Her amber eyes narrowed at her and the brunette girl with half her face covered in a mask. Kaneko narrowed her eyes. Those two, huh? Riser's own rooks. Asia stood in a nervous stance behind her, her hands shaking as she kept her eyes on the two enemy rooks. She had heard the updates on the pieces eliminated and was relieved that none of her friends had been announced. However, she was now afraid that she or Kaneko could be since it was two rooks on one and a supportive bishop. Hiroka bit her lip, not liking the sound of that. This will be easy, declared Shulin, the ravenette with a smirk. Isabella didn't say anything, but she had a matching smirk. Hey Kaneko-san, whispered Asia to her friend. What do we do? The Nekomata didn't respond for a moment as the two enemy rooks ready to attack. Stay back, she said softly to the blonde ex-nun. I'll handle this. Asia nodded and took a small step backward just as the two rooks leapt at her friend. What worried her though was that Kaneko was standing still with no stance or form to counter. I hope you have a plan, mentally prayed the blonde. Hiroka did likewise. Other reality or not, Shirin was still her sister no matter what. As her hand strayed to her pocket where the seal tag Naruto gave her was. Kaneko had her eyes closed as she drowned everything out. Would you do that? Sakura asked Kaneko. That was horrible in a fight. She focused on nothing else except for the dormant chakra within her. This was something Naruto had stressed to her in regards to keeping her chakra calm. HELLO, Kuroka said, delighted. Oh, this she had to hear. Focus, concentrate. Yes, Kuroka muttered excitedly. The two rooks got closer. Kuroka gulped, she knew Shirin could do this, but that didn't stop her from worrying. Reach out, pull out my power. That's it, sis, you can do this. Her hand slowly rose, gaining a light blue hue as they did so. That's it. A little more. This is me, I won't lose myself. Her hands clenched and the blue hue became an azure fire that engulfed her fists. Do it. Do it. Do it. The black cat urged. I won't back away from this, I won't. She mentally cried as her eyes shot open and she threw a twin palm strike, hitting both of her opponents in their chests. Yes. Kuroka cheered. The duo were left frozen from the strike, silent screams coming from their mouths while their eyes were wide from the pain. Kaneko pulled her arms back and stepped away, letting the two fall to their knees and then to the ground. Their faces never changed expression and they didn't move a muscle, seemingly dead to the world from the strike as they faded away from the board. The Nexama's 2 rooks have been eliminated, stated Graphia, making Kaneko stare at her hands contemplatively. She clenched them a few times before nodding to herself and turning to Asia, who was looking to her in awe. Yo-oh-ya. Chakra for the win. Kuroka and the Konoha shinobi all cheered at the scene. Let's keep going, stated the young Nekomata as she took the lead with the blonde bishop right on her tail. No pun intended. Shirin-chan, NYA cheered Kuroka from her seat as she witnessed her sister use chakra to take down her opponents. You have no idea how hard it would be to keep from doing a victory dance at that. Kuroka said. Mentally, she added, thank you, Naruto-kun. Oh, I'll thank him all right. Kuroka said, eyeing the blonde whose lap she was in. Naruto gulped at the way the black cat suddenly tightened her grip on him. Impressive for one so young, commented Office as she remained standing behind her Nekomata subordinate. I'm curious, though. I was under the impression that your sister was swayed away from the usage of chakra or anything to do with it. Wait, anything that has to do with chakra, but as a chakra user, Ino said. Kuroka nodded, looking upset, bingo. Chakra-phobic to the point of estrangement with me. So you can imagine how much this means for me. She said, tightening her grip on Naruto. The stray cat turned to her boss with a Cheshire grin on her face. Ooh. Bad pun. Inuzuka said. She was, but Naruto-kun was able to convince her otherwise. Now, we can try and rebuild that bond we once had, Naya, she said, smiling longingly towards the end as she imagined having her little sister back. No kidding, I want that again, Kuroka muttered. A human one full of chakra convinced her to embrace the very energy she feared. Queried the dragon goddess with a raised brow. Turning back to the television, she asked in a softer tone, just who is this Naruto Uzumaki? Kuroka smiled as she turned back to the screen as well. He's a hero, boss. At that, Naruto groaned, he wasn't used to the hero label yet and it made him somewhat uncomfortable. I'm not taking that back. You earned that from me. Kuroka said, holding Naruto closer to her. The kendo jumped back and pushed off the ground with her hand as she evaded another explosion from Yubaluna. What? But why is she fighting for Riser still? Everyone shouted, shocked. Probably forced her. Wouldn't put it past him to pull that. Ravel said, disgusted by her elder sibling being just that kind of character. The others all muttered angrily, certainly seemed the kind of thing Riser would pull like that. She retaliated with a wave of lightning that was redirected with a magic shield. Ara, I'm impressed with you, Bomb Queen, commented Akeno as she stood up with her hands on her hips. You're fighting so fiercely when your master placed your position at risk. Luna frowned at the mention of her master. I'm not fighting for him, Himejima-san. I'm fighting for something else. Huh? Everyone cried. She then unleashed some more explosions around the hybrid queen. Oh? Questioned Akeno as she flew above the bombs and then dive-bombed her opponent. And what would that be? She yelled over the rushing wind. Luna chose to forego her normal magic and instead sent forth a fireball at Akeno. I'm fighting to prove that I'm not worthless. To prove that he was right to fight for me. Hello. Seraphol said, then grinned. Odds are she wants to impress the guy she's gonna work for if Tweety loses. By beating up the ones who are out to help make it so Riser is beaten. Tenten asked, not getting the backwards logic. The kendo barrel rolled away from the fireball, staying afloat as she looked down at Luna with a raised brow. He wouldn't happen to be Naruto-kun, wouldn't he? Luna had a dusting of pink on her face before she glared at the hybrid. And if he is? Nailed it. The current Leviathan cheered. To her surprise, Akeno smiled at her and slowly dropped to the ground and landing gently on her feet. So, he got to you too, huh? She asked, though there was a knowing undertone. What are you getting at? I mean that he made you start to believe in yourself again, didn't he? Luna was surprised at the question, but she slowly nodded. Yes, he did. Naruto gulped and went red in the face. Geez. Why was his other such a babe magnet? He was going to need to set up a trap parameter before he went to sleep or who knew what would happen to him. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. He seems to have this gift for connecting with others. Even if they're total strangers. And then, as soon as a connection is made, he shows them the worth that they never knew they had. Hinata nodded, fully in agreement. As much as she hated these devil girls all being attracted to Naruto, she understood why they liked him, loath as she was to admit it. That's exactly how I felt when he said he would fight for me, admitted Luna. He made me want to prove that he was fighting for someone worthwhile. Everyone smiled at that. So she just wanted to prove herself, that was understandable. Akeno nodded as she leaned on the outside wall of the main school building. He did the same for me. He helped me face some old scars, but in a different and more positive way. Azazel smiled at that. Now, I want to show him that he wasn't wasting his time, that I was worth his time. Luna smirked and leaned right next to her fellow queen. Sounds to me like you were affected more deeply than I was. Was it the eyes that got you? Naruto blushed. The kendo giggled behind her hand at the question. I'll admit that it was a definite plus. But for me, I think it was those wild locks of his. They're like the sun. Warm and bright and so him. His blush deepened. Luna giggled as well, and the two queens soon disregarded the fact that a game was still going on as they talked about the Uzumaki that had made them believe in themselves again. Girl talk about some guy in the middle of a battlefield? Inuzuka asked. The girls Angel, Demon, Dragon and Kunoichi all rolled their eyes at that question. Ugh boys. They just didn't get it. Look, I don't want any trouble, Issei said as he regarded a blonde girl dressed in a high society dress. I just want to get to my king and help her face Riser team. Was wondering when I'd show up. Ravel commented. Ravel Phoenix puffed her cheeks at both the insult to her brother, though she agreed with it. Not surprised. Everyone reading said in unison. And it being brushed off so easily. Now see here, I will not be disregarded as some pawn by another pawn. You will face me as the game intends us to. Issei sweat dropped at her mightier-than-thou attitude before he sighed and readied his boosted gear. Fine then. Don't say it as if it's some heavy burden to you. Yelled the Phoenix with an embarrassed blush on her face. You should be honored to face a Phoenix in AAHH. She was cut off by a dive kick from Issei that made her shriek in surprise as she dodged. Issei kept up his attack as soon as he landed, using his boost as he neared the girl who looked too shocked to move. She was so surprised that a mere pawn almost got to her that she didn't know what to do. Cardinal rule. Don't step up if you can't put up a decent fight, especially when the one you act that way towards has no intention for fighting you. Shikamaru sighed. Troublesome girl. Ravel buried her face in her hands, beyond embarrassed. Closing her eyes, she braced herself for the hit. But no such hit came. Instead, she felt an armored hand pat her head and she opened her eyes to see Issei looking at her apologetically. Sorry if I frightened you. I honestly can't bring myself to fight someone who can't fight back. Look, if you just wait here and promise not to try and fight me and my friends, I promise not to let anyone know where you're at. Deal? Not bad, tone down the perv antics and you might get somewhere with that kind of an attitude. Naruto commented. Having had to deal with Uriah and the old lecher's stupidity, he knew what he was talking about. Ravel looked down at the offered, though unarmored, hand from the brunette. Why would you offer such a thing? We're enemies aren't we? We don't have to be, suggested Issei as he took the initiative and grabbed her hand, shaking it a couple of times. I'm Issei Haidu, a pawn for Rias. It's nice to meet you. The gathered Kunoichi all gaped in shock. No way was this the same perverted bastard. She was baffled by the sudden introduction, but she couldn't help but smile at the sincerity from the human-turned-devil before her. So, performing a noble curtsy, she greeted back, my name is Ravel Phoenix, daughter of Lord and Lady Phoenix. A pleasure to meet you as well, Haidu-san. Issei smiled at her before he turned and left to find Rias, leaving Ravel smiling after him. The reading Ravel smiled at that. Her other was still going to hook up with Issei. She just knew it. Unknown to them, they had been observed by Kaneko who was impressed at the maturity by the pervert. Deciding to support him, for once, she left without attacking Ravel. I'd agree with Uzumaki on that point, tone down the perv antics, and you might get somewhere with that kind of an attitude. The white-haired girl said. Riser smirked as he stared down his fiancée and the human that had challenged him. Well, it looks like I'm able to kill two birds with one stone. Careful, replied Naruto with a teasing smirk, you could accidentally kill yourself with that stone, bird boy. Riser brow twitched at the insult. Your pain will be delivered slowly. I'm going to enjoy watching you slowly roast to a crisp, to watch the agony in your eyes as you ah. He didn't, Ravel said, aghast. No way her family hated cracks like that. Who was that abrasive? He was cut off by a small stone striking his forehead. He did. Rias peerage cheered, laughing. A phoenix, a bird, using that killing birds with stones metaphor. Riser had set himself up for that. Boy, there's your stone to kill birds with. Called out Naruto while Rias struggled not to laugh at the look on Riser's face. Rias nodded and, unlike her other self, actually was laughing. Seriously, can I keep this guy? She asked, gesturing at Naruto. Do you have both his consent as well as enough evil pieces? Her brother asked. Rias pouted as that. Drat. You growled out the phoenix while Naruto grinned at him. Yes, me. The guy who's gonna kick your ass and make you drop this engagement to Red-chan and get your queen away from your prideful ass. Riser's devil power began to rise, increasing the temperature in the area. I'm going to enjoy watching you crash and burn. He roared as he unleashed a massive wave of fire. Seriously, that's all this guy's good at, bad fire puns. Choji said. Naruto stared down the approaching inferno and calmly said, Rias. She turned to him and replied, yes. That tag I gave you. Activate it. She was surprised at how soon she was using her tag, but she complied and pointed the seal at the fire. Pouring her devil power into it, she was surprised to see a sphere surrounded by fierce wind blades shoot out of it and streak towards the flames. Though she stumbled back from the backlash Naruto had warned her about. Naruto watched with a proud look as his unsealed Rasen shuriken met the wave of fire and engulfed it in a massive explosion. When the burst died down, Riser was left staring in shock at Naruto through the floating embers between them. Wow, no kidding, you had the right to be proud. A vacuum-based explosion like that, nice kaboom, kid. The Governor General of the Fallen Angels and Grigori said. Well, I really hope that fire of yours wasn't your best shot. Or does most of your fire go to reforming that massive stick up your ass every time you heal yourself? Riser saw red at that and roared furiously as his flaming devil wings burst from his back and propelled him toward the Uzumaki. He was too enraged to see Naruto reach behind him and ready another tag or see Rias ready a destruction orb. All he was focused on was that damnable grin on the blonde's face. One that poked at his pride and got under his skin so easily. Naruto excels at that. Sakura sighed. You say that like it's a bad thing. Rias said. So, he was ill-prepared for Naruto to duck and palm strike his chest, sticking a seal tag there as he did so. The Uzumaki then spun and ducked beneath his left wing, slapping a second seal tag on his underarm. He kept his spin around Riser and placed the last two tags on his neck and right underarm respectively before he leapt back just in time for Rias to fire her destruction orb at Riser's face. Whoo. Rias cheered, I know it was my other, but damn, can I just say that felt good. Every other female nodded, commenting encouragingly at the Gremory girl's joy at blasting Riser in the face like that. The Phoenix stumbled back from the blow to his face while his power healed any damage that had been done. After shaking himself from the daze, he looked at the tags on his body before scoffing. Is that it? Paper tags. You think paper can stop my fire? He asked challengingly. Ajuka wanted to point that out, but he had a feeling there was more to it than that. But he had to confess that he couldn't have asked for a better person to showcase his other's inventions like the temporary evil piece. He wondered if he could get a pact with the Naruto they were with right now for the same thing. Naruto never lost his grin as he answered, I wouldn't if those tags were normal paper. He then held up a half-ram seal, causing the seals to glow a bright orange. But then again, not many people can understand my strategies. Even the people from my world. Ah, I love that. Being such a mold-breaking maverick when it comes to being unorthodox. Naruto sighed, leaning back with his hands behind his head. Gravity seal. Activate. It happened in an instant. The seals glowed brighter, and Riser felt his body grow exponentially heavier, bringing him down to his hands and knees with his head lowered. His eyes were wide in shock as he realized the position he was forced to take. One of a man of lower stature bound to others higher than himself. He was forced to bow to Naruto Uzumaki and Rias Gremory. Rias whooped, someone take a picture, I'm hanging that in my room. How dare you force me into this position? He snarled, calling on his fire once more. Release me, now. Really? He actually thinks he's in a position to make demands. Naruto said incredulously, then turned to Rias, seriously, just how desperate was your family to where you were going to be forced to get married off to that dumbus? Rias sighed and hung her head, no idea. I know the devils don't thank God, but I felt like doing just that when I got out of that engagement. Don't blame you at all. Ravel said to her. Seriously, it was painful to see her brother being such an egotistical moron, but knowing he actually was this bad in real life was even worse. Yeah, I don't think I'll do that. You see, I was told that you never really lost a match unless you gave up. And even then, you only did it for a favor in return. So, you've never experienced a total loss before. Of course not. I am Riser Phoenix. I don't lose to these pathetic devils unless I wish it. He does remember that he's from a devil family, right? Surzich growled out. Well then, began Naruto as he crouched down and grinned in an ironically devilish manner at Riser's bowed form, let me be the first to make you give up. Let's let the devils watching witness a human make a noble devil submit. I'm not gonna get blasted to ashes later for that, am I? Naruto asked nervously, looking at Surziches, Serafo, Ajuka, and Falbium. The four devil leaders all looked at one another, then back at Naruto, nah. Naruto sighed, glad he wasn't in trouble with the rulers of the underworld. Rias looked floored at the sight, not once thinking that the Uzumaki would try something so publicly bold. Seeing her fiancé in such a position made her slowly grin, and knowing it was Naruto made her feel a little hot. Rias and Naruto both flushed at that, while Serafo had to encase Hinata in ice to keep her from attacking the Lucifer's little sister. You have less sense than I first thought if you think I'm going to submit to a worthless man, growled out Riser as he struggled to move, but was unsuccessful. Okay, how is it I'm the one with less sense compared to him? Naruto complained, feeling insulted. You know, you really seem to think that we humans are beneath everyone else, noted Naruto as he took a seat in front of Riser, with his legs crossed. Yet, you fail to see just how much we've accomplished. Like I care, retorted the devil. You should. Your home is so much like that of the human world, in case you didn't notice. Also, you devils seem to act on your feelings and desires when we humans can think more rationally. He then stood up and began to slowly circle the bowing blonde. Now, I'm not saying that we're better than devils. You all have something worthwhile about you too. Just as I'm sure that the fallen and the angels have something that makes them special. Okay, I'm liking how open-minded this guy is. Can I just point that out for the record? Azazel said. The other faction leaders all nodded. Is there a point to this, or are you going to try and talk me to death? Riser, just shut up and listen to him. Rias snapped, surprising the Phoenix. Can't you see that he's trying to extend a hand of friendship? He has every right to be furious with you for everything you've said about his home and his people. Damn way to tell him. Naruto grinned at the retarded girl. Naruto smiled at the retard and gave her a grateful nod as he continued, there is no superior race, Riser. Everyone has their good qualities, just as everyone has their faults. I'll admit that I'm not perfect and I never will be. The office's entire focus was on the blonde human being broadcasted, listening to the words he spoke and comparing them to the words that he once said. He knew nobody was perfect and he made sure to let the world know that it was okay to have faults. Huh? Who are you talking about, boss? Kuroka asked. I have no idea who my other means, you're getting too into this, Kuroka. Office said to the feline. This Naruto reminded her so much of him that she could dare to say that he was reincarnated. The devil reincarnated as a human, Surzich said, stunned. He looked to his fellow Satans, who also looked interested. Okay, that is something we need to look into being possible. The other devils, even those not of the four Satans, all nodded. If that was true, things could easily get interesting. Ironic since it would be the reverse of the norm since he was once a devil unlike any before. Who's your other talking about? Surzich asked. Don't know. All I do is point out that I can't be judged on it due to this being another reality we're reading about. I have no control whatsoever of what my other dozer thinks. The dragon goddess said. Her hand once again gripped the blue amulet while the other rested over her heart. Sparta, she mentally whispered as a lone tear fell. Huh? You mean you and the legendary Dark Knight demon swordsman? That's Sparta. The Satans all cried, then looked to Office. Alternate. She said. Wait, you mean Formise started to say, but seeing the looks the rest of Ria's group and Kuroka gave him, all shaking their head, he shut his mouth. But, I know that, despite my faults, I'm proud of who I am and where I come from. Just as you are proud of who you are, finished Naruto as the rest of Ria's peerage, along with Yubaluna and Ravel, approached the rooftop of the main school building. Surprisingly, the two queens were walking together and talking as if they were old friends, while Ravel had chosen to stand a bit closer to say. Wonder why? Kaneko said flatly. She and Ravel got along like well cats and birds. Ravel smiled widely at that line that had just been read. She knew it. Ravel, Yubaluna, take down this worthless pest and free me. Ordered Riser to his bishop and queen. Both women regarded their king before Luna stepped forward slowly, making the male phoenix smirk at her obedience. As he pictured his comeback, he failed to notice Luna looking at Naruto's face, while said blonde gave her a kind smile. She returned the smile as she reached her king, standing next to the Jinchuriki. Someone please tell me they have a camera. Rias begged, knowing this was going to be good. Riser, she began, making him lose his smirk at the lacking suffix, you can take that order and shove it. Tell him, girl. Sakura cheered. Following this declaration was an explosion from right under the phoenix, making him cry out in surprise and pain. As the smoke cleared, he was already almost finished healing, and he glared at Luna in fury. You traitorous whore. He roared, making Naruto frown. What did he call her? I'll see that you burn for this. So much that no one in the netherworld, on earth, or even in heaven can recognize you. Naruto sighed and shook his head at the threat. You really are a prideful fool, Riser Phoenix, he stated before turning to his friends. Everyone, point your tags at him. One at a time activate them and wait until he fully heals before firing off another one. Ego bust is a go. Naruto chuckled darkly. Ria smirked along with him. She was going to love this. The others nodded and pulled out their seal tags, Akeno activating hers first. Like Ria's beforehand, the seal unleashed a Rasen shuriken at Riser and engulfed him in a huge burst of wind blades as he screamed in agony. One by one, the rest of the Gremory peerage activated their seals and struck Riser, making him experience the sheer torture of millions upon millions of wind blades, shredding both his outside and inside. Millions upon millions of microscopic wind blades making razor-sharp energy needles ripping through him with gale force and cutting at a cellular level very nice. Kuroka whistled. As a chakra user herself, she could truly appreciate the mechanics of the attack. After the final one was released by a slightly reluctant Asia, Naruto strode forward and stopped in front of the bowed and gasping riser. Right now, you've died at least 5 times and not once have you been able to do a thing about it. Mr. Uzumaki, if you ever want to do business, I can very much say I can work with that. Surzuch grinned at the blonde. Ravel winced at hearing that about her blockhead brother. 5 times and utterly helpless to do anything about it. Ouch. "Be damn you," panted out the Phoenix as he glared at the Uzumaki in pure hatred. "I didn't want to do this. Really, I didn't. But, I guess I won't be able to make you give up unless you're faced with real terror." He waved back the others, making them distance themselves before he took on his chakra mode. It then shifted into a similar form, but gained a large code and newer markings. His ascended mode. "How do I get that?" Naruto asked. "Pay attention, Riser," he began, staring down the devil with his orange-slitted eyes. "I want you to see what exactly you've been up against this whole time. This'll be odd." Akeno purred. Riser stared on in shock as the human before him became engulfed in golden flames that grew exponentially. The flames then took shape and gained black markings similar to the ones he had before, presenting itself in the form of a massive golden fox with 9 tails. "Say what?" The Konoha shinobi all shouted, then rounded on Naruto in shock, but he was too busy gawking. Rias smiled softly and put her hand under Naruto's chin and closed his mouth for him. "Scratch what I said earlier, how do I get that?" he muttered. Many devils in the stands, along with Kuroka and Office at the Cow's Brigade base, watched in awe as the golden Kyuubi roared down at Riser, sending forth a shockwave from the sheer power of it. "Damn Naruto, can I make the same offer to do business with you as Surzuch?" Ijuka said. "Someone like this promoting his inventions." Riser himself was left unable to move, staying bowed before the massive fox. "Standing in front of you is the result of a symbiotic relationship between myself and the Biju sealed within me. Together, we have accepted our faults and our achievements, and we work as a team," spoke Naruto, though there was a second and more animalistic voice that accompanied his. "Symbiotic. Okay, need to figure out that." Naruto said, "Memo to me. Figure out how to get to the symbiotic point with the fox. Now, see just what we're capable of." The fox then opened its massive jaws, and everyone saw a small orb slowly take shape, twisting and shifting, as the dense energies it held slowly merged and took on a stable form. The form itself was a sphere that was pitch black, but the core glowed like the setting sun, while the power behind it made the air feel heavy. "Ah, that much power," Rias said, then turned to the blonde beside her. "And you're gonna unload all of it point blank on Riser?" Naruto nodded faintly. "Well, what else would I do with it in that kind of situation? If I kiss you, hope everyone here understands why I would do that to the guy who gets me away from having to marry Riser," Rias said. Every one of the other ladies nodded. As women, they could see why Rias would give that kind of forewarning, considering Naruto was basically the white knight that was saving Rias from being stuck with this arrogant, aggressive playboy with a holier-than-thou personality for the rest of her life. Rias and her friends were awed by the power that Naruto had at his disposal. Even though Rias had read and seen pictures of this form in her manga, seeing it in real life was something else entirely. "Naruto, you're incredible." "No kidding, other me, no kidding at all," Rias muttered. "Hail Beast Bomb," roared the partner Jinchuriki and Biju as the ethereal fox swallowed the sphere and then unleashed it as a massive blast of pure chakra. It was upon Riser in an instant, engulfing him in the blast and drowning out his screams while destroying the entire school grounds from the shockwave. It also overloaded the seals and destroyed them, which allowed Riser to be kicked up off his hands and knees and shot backward into the barrier of the board. "Holy shit." The devils, angels, and fallen angel governor all shouted at the sight of the blast. "Okay, is it wrong to say that I actually feel glad the guy who got hit with that sucker can't die?" Issei muttered faintly. Ever so slowly, the smoke and dust cleared up just enough for everyone to see Naruto in his natural form standing before a downed Riser. The Phoenix coughed and groaned as his body screamed in pain. The sheer power and density of the attack was too much for his healing factor to deal with, and it showed from the burn markings that failed to heal. "Please, can I keep him? Please. 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 Can I keep Naruto?" Rias begged, bouncing up and down with her hands clasped in front of her pleadingly. Naruto looked down at his opponent sadly, not liking how far he had to go, even though he felt it was necessary. Needing to go that far against a worm, just to teach him humility, says quite a bit about how Riser would have made your sister miserable if he'd won. Offa said, making Surzuch nod faintly. "Riser," he muttered as the Phoenix kept trying to get back on his feet. Sighing softly, he stepped forward and pushed the devil onto his back with his foot, holding him down with the flat of his sandal and having a fully powered Rasengan at the ready in his palm. He had the jutsu pointed at Riser's face as he finished. "This is checkmate." "State the obvious," Michael said, amused. "Riser Phoenix Ama has been defeated." The rating game is now finished, and the winner is the peerage of Rias Gremory-sama, declared Grafia, prompting the spectating devils to erupt in a massive outburst of cheers and applause for the performance. Not once did they believe that they'd see something so spectacular as the game they had just witnessed. The area that made up the board faded away, and Naruto let his jutsu fade before he stepped back to allow Riser's peerage, save for Ravel and Luna, to rush over to their king and make sure he was alright. He'd need that too. Shino said. Turning away from the sight, he was forced to brace himself as Ria surprised him with a jumping hug that nearly knocked him over. Not long after her was Akeno who tried to wrap her legs around him as well. "We won," cheered Rias in elation. "You did it, Naruto." Sheepishly, the blonde chuckled and rubbed his head in embarrassment before he was left wide-eyed as he felt a pair of soft lips on his own. Looking down, he saw that it was Rias who was kissing him and he was left frozen in shock. Naruto said as both he and Rias went scarlet in the face, recalling what Rias had given as a forewarning. "Not a word," Tenten stated, looking at the rest of the reading group. They didn't tease Rias or Naruto, though she couldn't help but smirk at how embarrassed the pair was. "Pered," hissed out Kuroka jealously, baring her fangs at the scene on the television. "Keep your lips off of my Naru-kun's lips, Naya." "Yay hey. What do you mean yours?" Hinata snapped. "Don't freak about it. Cats are territorial, as all," Kaneko said. The office rolled her eyes at the envious Nekomata as she watched the broadcast. A small smirk formed on her face as she nodded and then left the room. "Well played, Naruto Uzumaki," she calmly praised as she walked off, already making plans to meet and speak with the intriguing human. She also completely ignored an angry Kuroka leaving via magic portal. "Oh boy, that's not going to end well at all. Well, regretfully I have no choice but to have my son honor the ramifications of his wager with both Rias and Uzumaki-san," stated Lord Phoenix as he, his wife, and the lord and lady of the Gremory house stood before both peerages. "The contract between our houses is now null and void, and my son's queen will be released from her service to him." He regarded Naruto and added, "She will be placed into your care for the time being, Uzumaki-san." Naruto mentally frowned since it felt like Luna was being passed around like some pet getting a new owner. Naruto growled at that. Ravel winced at the comparison. She'd been part of her mother's peerage before Riser had gotten her as one of his servants because he wanted a little sister-type girl in his harem, as well as a tsundere type. She got where the passed around like some pet getting a new owner thing was coming from. But he didn't comment on it and just nodded to Lord Phoenix. "Now, if there's nothing else, we'll be taking our leave now. Rias, congratulations on your win. It seems your luck was quite high when you stumbled upon Uzumaki-san." Rias held back her frown at the subtle jab at her peerage. Rias fumed at the jab. How dare those lousy birds, especially after getting beaten that badly. "Sorry about that," Ravel said. Shisha didn't surprise her, but her family were jerks in this story. All the Phoenix family and Riser's peerage left. She shook off the annoyance and turned to her friends with a bright smile. "Everyone, thank you so much for fighting so hard for me. We'll keep training, though. I know we can get stronger and I want to see us make history as a peerage that will never be forgotten." "Ara," began Akeno with a small giggle, "I doubt anyone will forget our performance, but you." "No kidding," Ino said. "Yes, I believe we gave them quite a performance," Kiba added with a kind smile to his king. "Understatement." Yuuto grinned. "Very well done," added Kaneko with her normally stoic look. Though she did throw in a small thumbs up. Hiroka smiled at her sister. "We were awesome," cheered Issei with a fist pump while Asia giggled at his antics. "We'll keep showing those other devils that we're not to be messed with." "Won't you need to get stronger since Naruto won't be part of your group?" Niji asked. "Niji? How could you say that? He helped show them way they could get stronger without any help from him for a reason," Lee abolished. Naruto smiled at the camaraderie between the young devils, being reminded of his friends from back home. "Well, you're now free to choose your own partner, Red-chan," he stated as he looked to the young woman. "The rest is up to you, now." "I know," she said with a smile. It grew lightly as she blushed and asked, "Maybe we can go out together sometime. We could get some ramen." "Huh." Naruto and Rias both shouted. Girl, way to move fast," Ino said, nodding in approval. A great guy that was insanely strong to look after her. How storybook. She loved it. He blinked in surprise at the question. "Are you asking me out?" "I believe I am," she answered. "And you've yet to give me an answer." His cheeks warmed as the others looked to him. Though Akeno was hiding her jealousy with a smile and Luna's fingers twitched in anticipation. And there it is. The inevitable situation where you get a woman mad at you no matter what you do. Seraphil giggled at Naruto, giving him a wink of her own. "Well, I guess a date wouldn't be a problem." "No." Hinata screamed. "Other him." Inuzuka said once he, Kaneko, and Kuroka all got their hearing back. Ria's smile brightened at his acceptance. Great. We'll go out tomorrow since we need some rest tonight from the game. She then activated her family portal and transported her friends to the mountain manor, thought there was someone already waiting for them. And this person was familiar to two people. Oh, here we go, Kaneko said, shaking her head. Hiroka-ni-sama? Asked Naruto and Kaneko in surprise. So Kakashi, I appreciate you volunteering to have a transplanted Dijutsu once more, stated Tsunade as she looked to the silverette Jonin, who once again wore his headband over his left eye. Eh? Why's the story shifting to back home? Choji asked. And how could Kakashi-sensei have Sakura trailed off, then went pale? Well, I've lived with one for so long that going back to having two was somewhat unnatural to me. So, I figured it'd be easier to have one again, replied the man with his ever-famous eye smile. Tsunade smiled at his reasons and was about to speak again, but she was interrupted by a sudden pressure in the air. Turning to the window, she frowned as a strange rip appeared in the skies above the village. Bigger and wider it opened as the pressure grew denser and heavier. Everyone reading stopped and realized what that meant. That's the place that appeared over Konoha before we were all sent here. Sakura cried, shocked. The dimensional gap office said, dread uncoiling in the pit of her stomach. She turned to the ninjas. I have a feeling this won't end well. From the space within the rip, witnessed by dozens of shinobi and civilians alike, a fierce-looking amber eye with a black slit pupil appeared. It was followed by another, and then there was the sight of sharp and sturdy scales, before a massive dragon head stared down at the Hidden Leaf village. Great Red. What the hell is that dragon doing? Azazel shouted in alarm. An exhale from the beast's head brought forth smoke before the massive dragon roared to the skies, and the air grew hotter and arid. Tsunade's eyes widened and she screamed to her people, everyone take cover. No, the gather Konoha shinobi all shouted. The next thing the village knew was fire. No, they all stood up and bolted, leaving the others all worried. Well, think that's more than enough for now. Seraphol said worriedly. Setting the book down, Irina looked after the ninjas. Come on, better make sure that they're all okay. She said. The others all nodded as they stood and moved to follow them. What if reading Naruto Highschool DxD Sage 6 Paths, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.